The story opens with a solitary boy confessing his dislike for spring, marking the beginning of a new school year. The teacher spoke about enjoying the upcoming year and declared that self-introductions would kick things off, a daunting task for an introvert like the boy. He overthought the situation, with only 2 minutes to prepare, debating whether to share a casual, friendly chat with the class. He hoped the class would lose interest by the end. When the teacher called the first student, it was none other than the boy, Maki Mahara. He inquired about Matsubara Middle School, which he attended in a neighboring prefecture, explaining that he frequently relocates due to his parents' jobs. Asked about his weekend hobbies, Mahara shared that his parents are away every Friday for work, so he watches movies or plays games. The teacher seemed curious about his movie choices, but Mahara felt uneasy, wishing the interrogation would end quickly. When pressed about his favorite films, he mentioned enjoying B-movies, like those featuring sharks, and noted his past involvement in the softball club during middle school. The teacher asked if he planned to continue softball in high school, and Mahara, perhaps too candidly, admitted he only liked niche movies, feeling his social standing in the class was already set. Next up was Amani Yu, who confidently stood and introduced herself before the teacher could ask anything. Her name combined kanji from ten in Tento, see in me, and evening in you. She greeted everyone warmly. The teacher asked if she attended Tachibana All-Girls Middle School, known for its escalator system, and Amani confirmed but expressed her desire to attend a co-ed high school. She turned to Yumi Asanagi, asking if she agreed and if she wanted to introduce herself too. Asanagi, caught off guard but willing, said she was from the same school as Amami and asked her classmates to get along with Amami, though she disliked being portrayed as Amami's pet. The class saw Asanagi as kind and approachable, but she felt treated like a pet. She shared her love for outdoor activities. Mahara predicted that Amami and Asanagi would be the class's focal point for the year, though he felt it didn't concern him. 6 months later, Amani was thrilled the week was ending and sought Asanagi's praise for staying awake in class, but Asanagi pointed out she had dozed off. Asanagi teased that Amami needed to stay fully awake to earn praise and admitted she struggled with afternoon science classes. Mahara observed them as the boys labeled Amami the cutest girl in class and Asanagi the second cutest. Even Mahara, friendless, heard their names daily. On that Friday, Amani invited Asanagi to hang out, but Asanagi declined, mentioning a movie she wanted to watch. Mahara, overhearing, wondered why he was even paying attention. Amani, curious about Asanagi's movie choice, asked what it was and offered to watch it together, prompting Asanagi to show her the film. Mahara noted that despite Asanagi's love for outdoor activities, she enjoyed movies too. Amani studied the movie and Asanagi asked for her thoughts, but Amani's reaction was as Asanagi expected. Though Amani clarified she didn't think it was a bad choice, she seemed unimpressed and said she planned to watch it alone anyway. Amani, trying to smooth things over, promised to hang out the following Friday when she was free, and the two left together. Mahara reflected that his mother, busy at her publishing job, likely wouldn't be home, so he'd spend his time lounging, watching movies, and eating pizza, probably a different film from Asanagi's. He recalled overhearing boys at school debating Asanagi's beauty, arguing over who was prettier when she and Asanagi were seen together, always comparing them. While walking home, the Pizza Rocket shop vendor recognized Mahara and offered his usual order, which he accepted, feeling familiar with the routine. On his way, he saw friends chatting about trivial things like video games and new movies at video shops, envying their camaraderie. Though Mahara didn't mind his alone time after school, he imagined talking about silly topics or playing games with friends would make even walking home more enjoyable. At a video shop, he browsed new releases, curious about Asanagi's movie, suspecting Amami's disinterest meant it might be an anime. He felt uneasy about the boys' comparisons of the girls, sensing they belittled Asanagi, though he knew it wasn't his place to be upset. Suddenly, Asanagi called out to him, startling Mahara, who hadn't noticed her nearby. She teased him for overlooking her despite her presence and asked if this was their first conversation, inquiring if he liked movies. Mahara confirmed, and she revealed her movie, a bizarre piranha shark film called Shark Miniaturization. Stunned, Mahara found it odd, while Asanagi remarked they should have gone with a human-eating piranha story instead. Pointing to a Soul Scream poster, Mahara found it surreal and Asanagi agreed, admitting she bought it seeking something fresh, noting its similarities to Kung Fu Shark. Mahara, thrilled she knew that film too, asked if she found Shark Miniaturization amazing. She called it amazingly weird. Curious about the movie she planned to watch alone, he asked, but she realized he'd overheard her talk with Amami and scolded him for eavesdropping. Ashamed, Mahara apologized, but Asanagi reassured him their loud conversation was hard to miss and apologized for it herself. Asanagi apologized for her loud conversation, then admitted to Mahara that half of her talk with Amami was a ruse, pointing at him as her true target. She confessed it took courage to approach him, then dug through her bag and handed him her introduction card. The card listed her hobbies as movies, games, reading, and all sorts of indoor activities, with a love for B-movies, cola, and carbonated drinks. Her message to the class was a hope to find a kindred spirit and get along with everyone, revealing she was much like Mahara. Looking at him, she asked if he'd be her friend, instantly closing the gap between them. The next chapter begins at Mahara's house, where his mother asked why he didn't wake her, recalling her request to be up at 7 o'clock. Mahara said he tried, but she brushed it off, saying it was fine. As she got ready, she warned him not to trust her when she said such things. Mahara offered breakfast, but she only wanted coffee. Noticing his height, she asked if he'd grown, but he insisted he hadn't, not even a millimeter since spring, worrying he'd stopped growing. His mother disliked his pessimism and mentioned she wouldn't be home again, so he could eat dinner without her. Mahara asked if she was pulling another all-nighter and if she was okay, but she reassured him not to worry, noting he'd been helping her out. As she prepared to leave, she asked if he'd made friends, and he replied that since they'd just moved, he was fine without any. She told him not to stress, promised to earn money, thanked him for the breakfast he made, and left, aware of his tendency toward loneliness. Mahara reflected on friends, not that he had none, but he had one now. Asanagi had asked him to be her friend, and he agreed, still stunned she wanted to connect. He figured no one else shared her interest in B-movies, so she sought someone to discuss them with. He was fine with that, but asked her to keep their friendship secret, explaining their differences might make others think it was odd. By that he meant people might find her strange for associating with him, fearing it could affect her reputation. Asanagi agreed to keep their friendship under wraps, saying they'd be secret friends from now on, and handed Mahara a bag with 2 drinks, thanking him for hanging out. Since then, every Friday before the weekend, Asanagi would spend time with him for reasons Mahara didn't fully grasp. While ordering pizzas, Mahara asked if Asanagi was sure about getting the same as him. She confirmed, curious about his choice. He listed his order: angel and demon garlic, garlic cheese, and teriyaki chicken with cheese, mayonnaise, double topping, and triple garlic. Asanagi said she wanted the exact same, noting how similar their tastes were, and they enjoyed their drinks, relieved the week was done. They moved on to gaming, with Mahara proposing a duel, Asanagi vowing to crush him. Mahara teased that she lost all 10 matches last week, but she claimed she'd trained at home. As they played, Mahara grabbed Asanagi's materials, prompting her to call him a cheat for stealing her gun. He laughed, saying all's fair in love and war, and the victor takes all. Mahara thought Asanagi wasn't great at games, likely due to limited practice time, but he didn't mind. As it got late, Asanagi decided to head home, offering to help clean up, but Mahara said it was just 2 cups to wash and some trash to toss. Asanagi gathered the trash, and Mahara noted she ate more than most girls, especially loving strong carbonated drinks, wondering if all girls were like that. Caught staring, Asanagi called him a pervert. He clarified he was just surprised she stayed slim despite eating so much. She credited regular sports and suggested he could use more exercise. Then she tickled him, finding his weak spot, ignoring his pleas to stop. She teased that since he kept winning at games, she needed to vent her frustration, calling his girly squeals cute. Embarrassed, Mahara told her to go home if she was satisfied. As she left, Asanagi said the day was fun, but was surprised he invited her over, and Mahara admitted he wasn't sure what friends do together. She nodded, saying she'd see him Monday. Mahara reflected that Asanagi only visited on Fridays after school. Meanwhile, Amani and a classmate discussed a Friday drama, Amani praising the cool main character and cute heroine. The other girl agreed, and Amani asked Asanagi if she watched it. Asanagi said she didn't have time to watch it live, and when Amami nearly spoiled the plot, Asanagi said she didn't mind, explaining she was busy with something else that took up her time. Mahara thought Asanagi's earnest response was classic student behavior. As he ate, he wondered if he was a good friend to Asanagi, worrying he might need to be more cautious or talkative when they hung out. She was his first friend, showing him how joyful it was to share time with someone. Mahara worried about making mistakes with his new friend, finding it tough to navigate their bond. While heading back to class, he overheard a boy addressing a man as senpai, asking if he needed something, hinting at a serious discussion. Mahara sensed tension as someone approached, and 2 girls from his class, one being Amami, joined him, pushing him to sit. The girl beside Amani asked if she knew Mahara, sparking Amami's irritation as she snapped that he was their classmate, questioning her confusion. Amami then asked Mahara to share the spot, apologizing, but as he started to leave, he noticed a boy, likely a second or third year named Zinai, confidently asking Asanaji out. Mahara, regretting witnessing it, thought such bold types were trouble. Asanaji declined Zinai, explaining she wasn't interested in anyone or dating, prompting the watching classmate to say he got rejected, while Amani called him no good. Mahara didn't grasp Amami's judgment, but she revealed Zinai had approached her similarly at that spot. Mahara, uneasy, wondered why she shared this with him. Amani noted Asanaji's popularity, saying guys often approached her when they were together, estimating this as her 5th confession that year. The classmate teased that Amami also rejected 5 guys, and Amami remarked none seemed genuine, grinning despite her rejections. She explained that since guys couldn't win over their idol, they settled for the backup dancer, Asanaji. Amani added that if she were a guy, she'd pursue Asanaji too, asking Mahara if he agreed. He disapproved of spying on someone's confession, but Amani admitted she was concerned because she knew Zinai and considered Asanaji a friend. Asanaji apologized again to Zinai, trying to leave, but he persisted, asking if they could at least be friends. She dismissed it as nonsense, citing no time for such things. Amani apologized to Mahara for dragging him into it, and he said it was fine. The classmates suggested they leave before being caught, and Mahara wondered if they knew a shortcut. Before going, Amani urged Mahara to keep their eavesdropping secret, as Asanaji would hate knowing they watched. Mahara felt guilty agreeing to cover for Amami, sensing he'd wronged Asanaji. He told Amami not to worry, as he barely knew Asanaji and had no friends in his contacts. Amani asked for his phone to exchange numbers, adding another secret to Mahara's list. At home, Mahara felt uneasy, realizing that despite shared hobbies, Asanaji seemed far out of his league. Meanwhile, Asanaji nudged him, asking if he was listening and if he wanted to hang out next Friday. Mahara agreed to hang out but hesitated, thinking going out might be a bad idea. Asanaji asked if he had plans for Friday, and he admitted he was free most days but wanted to confirm if she meant outside his house. She teased what else it could mean, and Mahara pondered spending time outside after school. Feeling he always went along with her plans, Asanaji suggested showing him some of her favorite hangout spots. He asked if it'd just be them, and she confirmed, saying she wouldn't tell anyone else. Mahara imagined crowded streets full of students like them on a Friday, a natural scene for someone like Asanaji, and though he wanted to go, he still felt uneasy. Asanaji told him to relax, jokingly adding she'd bring her own money, to which he replied that was obvious. Suddenly, Mahara apologized, confessing he saw her being confessed to by a senpai while eating lunch nearby. He stressed it was accidental and apologized again. Asanaji, unbothered, asked if that was all, surprising him with her calm reaction. She mentioned hearing whispers during the moment but didn't mind discussing it. Relieved he hadn't mentioned Amami's presence, Mahara asked if she was really that popular. Asanaji admitted she was somewhat, but not as much as Amami. Mahara thought 5 confessions in 6 months was a lot, and when she teased if he was jealous, he denied it, thinking it'd be odd to suggest she befriend girls instead of him. He explained popularity meant being liked for charm or charisma, but even among admirers, there'd be people you didn't like. Noticing her head hung low when she bowed, he said constantly pleasing everyone seemed exhausting, preferring honesty. Asanaji called him dramatic, and he admitted to being a loner, but she said that's what she liked about him, as a friend. He echoed that he saw her only as a friend too, easing her concern. While gaming, Asanaji landed a perfect shot, prompting Mahara to call her the master. She said she wanted to have maximum fun next week and left. At school, Asanaji told her friends she wasn't going home with them, citing business at home. Nita, nearby, noted Asanaji seemed happy, and Amani remarked she always looked excited lately, asking if she had a boyfriend. Asanaji denied it. A boy teased Nita not to upset Amami, who told him to stay out of it. Amani, a bit sad, said she'd go home with Nita, then asked Asanaji if she needed help, as she seemed busy. Asanaji thanked her but said she was fine. Later, Mahara prepared to meet Asanaji, wearing his newest shirt, bought a year ago. He arrived as promised but worried about running into classmates while out. It was too late to back out when Asanaji arrived, noting Mahara was early and saying she rushed to meet him. He warned her it was risky to hang out there, asking how they'd explain if classmates saw them. She casually said they'd be honest about their friendship, shocking Mahara, but quickly clarified it was a joke. Asanaji teased that his all-black outfit was predictable but too gloomy, suggesting he wear brighter colors next time. Mahara, surprised by the idea of a next time, let it slide as she said his clothes were comfy. When he asked where to go, Asanagi admitted she hadn't decided, explaining that with Amami, they'd randomly stop at places they liked. She asked if Mahara had any favorite spots, and when he mentioned haunt, he jokingly clarified he wasn't a ghost. He suggested a place but doubted a girl would like it, though Asanagi was open to it. At the spot, both were impressed. Asanagi, who'd never been to such a place, loved it, and Mahara noted it wasn't her usual scene but was glad she enjoyed it. She said adding "san" to her name felt formal for friends, so he dropped it. Though when she suggested calling her Yumi, he felt they weren't that close yet. Asanagi playfully called herself stupid for wandering off to another corner, and Mahara followed. They browsed manga, and Asanagi pointed out a new battle manga volume she loved. Mahara, into different genres, showed her a rom-com, suggesting they read the free first chapter. She found it gentler than expected but nice, saying she'd been avoiding stress and liked imagining a softer world. When Mahara asked if she was hungry, she said the spot wasn't ideal for eating, so they left to grab food. Mahara noted, unlike the anime shop they visited, this place had schoolmates, but their casual clothes might make them unrecognizable. He asked where next, and Asanagi proposed an arcade in Purakura, though he agreed only to the arcade. He mentioned Angel Shark Asterisk, a bizarre online movie about a shark with angel and shark genes, calling it the best. Asanagi, intrigued, wanted to watch it next week. Mahara asked if she was okay spending every weekend with him, and she reassured him, saying she hung out with Amami and Nita most weekdays, so their shared hobbies were special. Asanagi shared that her interest in games and B-movies started a year ago, sparked by borrowing her brother's collection. Asanagi shared that she noticed no girls her age liked the same things she did, so she enjoyed her hobbies alone, vowing to befriend anyone who shared her interests. While talking, two girls spotted them, one questioning if it was really Asanagi, the other doubting it, citing her rejection of a senpai. They gossiped that Asanagi seemed too picky, rejecting a good-looking guy without a boyfriend or clear reason. Overhearing, Asanagi whispered to Mahara that they could pretend to be a couple to throw them off. She playfully called him darling, fed him food, and laughed flirtatiously, saying they always did this at home, then kicked him under the table. Mahara, initially shocked, caught on, feeding her back as they convincingly played the part. The girls, convinced they mistook her identity, remarked that someone like Asanagi wouldn't date a gloomy guy like Mahara. He felt a spark of anger but brushed it off, while Asanagi urged him to stay calm, admitting she was upset they mocked him, as they knew nothing about him. Mahara appreciated her defense and told her to ignore them. At the game center, Asanagi grabbed a pile of medals, which Mahara estimated would last an hour. She aimed to multiply them, but he joked they weren't at a pachinko parlor. Asanagi played a horse racing game, betting big to win more medals, which Mahara saw as risky despite her rare gaming wins against him. Their horse, number 8, took the lead, and they won triple their medals, thrilled they could play all day. Mahara asked what was next, but Asanagi, caught up in the games, ignored him. He reflected that at school she seemed poised and mature, but it was a front. Spending time together revealed her true lively side, and he was grateful for their friendship. Later, Asanagi apologized for burning through most of their change on one game, but Mahara didn't mind, suggesting they play others with his remaining coins. They tried a baseball game, where Asanagi excelled. When it was Mahara's turn, she noted a home run would earn a free round, but he doubted himself. After several misses, she suggested lowering the ball speed, but his pride made him refuse. She encouraged him to focus without obsessing over a big hit, and following her advice, he finally struck the ball. Eager to try again, she teased he wasn't bad for someone not in a club. Asanagi shared she'd been athletic since childhood, talented at everything except studying, which could complicate non-sport hobbies, but hanging out felt normal. Mahara hit the final ball, and they celebrated with drinks. After using all their tokens, Mahara had some regrets about his choices, but Asanagi reassured him there'd be more chances to play together. As it grew late, they decided to wrap up, and Asanagi stepped away to use the bathroom. Mahara reflected that coming out was a good call. He braced for a lonely 3 years of high school, but things felt brighter now. Suddenly, Amani appeared, greeting him, while her friends asked if they knew each other. As she explained, Mahara worried about Asanagi returning to this awkward scene. In the bathroom, Asanagi chose a lipstick when her phone buzzed with a call from Mahara, but she heard Amani's voice questioning him. Amani asked if he was waiting for a friend, and he confirmed, prompting her to express relief that he wasn't always alone, as she'd noticed him isolated in class. She offered he could call her if he felt lonely, though her male friends seemed annoyed by this. As Mahara tried to leave, Amani invited him to join their group, but one friend hinted he wasn't alone, suggesting they didn't want Mahara tagging along. Amani's charm made it hard for them to object, and she confidently assumed he'd join, planning where to go. Mahara declined, apologizing, saying while it'd be fun, he didn't fit in with their crowd and worried he'd dampen the mood, blaming himself. He valued group harmony but felt it shouldn't be forced, believing Asanaji sought an escape with him. He explained he was hanging out just with his friend today, as they preferred quieter activities, then left without letting Amani respond. Finding Asanaji, she thanked him for not joining them, and an awkward moment passed as she handed him his wallet and keys. Before he could speak, Asanaji opened up, saying she used to stand out for being smart and cute. Mahara agreed, and loved leading and being relied on, but in big groups, expectations to always be perfect became overwhelming. They caught a train, and Asanaji gave Mahara her seat. She got a text from Amami, who thought she'd upset Mahara and asked for advice. Mahara realized he'd misstepped, as Amami's invitation was kind, yet he'd soured the mood and left abruptly. Asanaji reassured him Amani wasn't mad, just worried she'd been too forward, and knew he didn't mean to offend. Asanaji shared she'd been open about her hobbies for a year, noting relationships were tough because joy after sadness could sting. She called Amami a good person, like herself, and enjoyed group activities, but valued their bond. She admitted she could have called Mahara sooner, recalling her embarrassing April self-introduction, as she'd never had guy friends before. Since spring, she'd looked out for him, rewriting his introduction card and carrying it, waiting for the right moment to share it. Asanaji brushed Mahara's hair, claiming something was on it, then told him to rest, promising to wake him. He thanked her and closed his eyes. On Monday, after Friday's incident, Mahara agonized over his rudeness to Amami. Asanaji assured him Amami wasn't upset, but others in her group might tease him for declining her offer. Entering school, Amani approached, apologizing sincerely for Friday. Asanaji arrived, suggesting she let Mahara reach class first, and apologized to him. Impressed by Asanaji's composed demeanor, Mahara insisted he owed Amami an apology for his poor wording. They forgave each other, and Amami joyfully hugged Asanaji, who acted as if she'd heard everything from Amami, making Mahara uneasy. Classmates began whispering about their connection. Amami shared she wanted to apologize by phone but preferred in person, surprising Asanaji, who didn't know they'd exchanged numbers. Amami tried changing the subject, but the teacher arrived, so she left. Other girls swarmed Asanaji, probing about Mahara and Amami. Since Amani was friendly with everyone, her interest in Mahara wasn't shocking, but they were surprised she'd connect with him without telling Asanaji, planning to question her at recess. Meanwhile, boys glared at Mahara. After class, Amani approached him, but girls pulled her away for questioning, and boys cornered Mahara at lunch. Amani tried talking to him again, but both were still being interrogated. By day's end, Mahara, fed up, ignored Asanaji's texts and saw Amami seeking her help, as the girls misunderstood her explanations. Mahara hadn't expected swapping numbers with Amami to cause such chaos and tried sneaking home. Amami and Asanaji caught him, dragging him to a bus for a quiet place to talk. Asanaji questioned why she was needed if Amami just wanted to speak with Mahara, asking where the bus was headed. Amani admitted she jumped on randomly, and Mahara guessed it was going near his house through residential areas. They ended up at Mahara's place, where Amami, unaware of his friendship with Asanaji, acted like it was her first visit. Both were impressed by a cookie box kept for guests, a nice change from cola and chips. Mahara offered coffee, and Amani whispered to Asanaji, praising his domestic skills and wondering if he often did chores, making Asanaji tense. As they sat, Asanaji asked how and why Mahara and Amami exchanged numbers, catching them off guard. Mahara hesitated, unsure if he should reveal Amani gave her number to keep him quiet about watching Asanaji's confession, a secret they still hid from her. Asanaji speculated wildly about why Mahara and Amami exchanged numbers, childhood friends, long-lost siblings, or dating, until Amami, unable to hold back, confessed they'd watched Asanaji's confession to Senpai. She'd asked Mahara to keep it secret, fearing Asanaji's anger. Asanaji, feeling the confession sounded like a threat, demanded why they were spying. Amani explained they were ready to intervene if the senpai acted suspiciously. Asanaji flicked her forehead, saying she wasn't mad but knew Amami felt guilty for doing something wrong. She forgave both after one flick. Amani apologized to Mahara for involving him, feeling relieved after confessing, as secrets were suffocating. The room grew tense with an unspoken secret lingering. Mahara felt overwhelming guilt, as he'd urged Asanaji to keep quiet, knowing his presence drew odd looks that could burden her. While praising Amani's care for friends, he grappled with his own selfishness. Amani thanked him, noting he protected his friend at the arcade by knowing her preferences. She appreciated his rejection of her group, as it would have been tough to do publicly, though he admitted it was partly for himself. He cherished the rare, carefree time with his friend, making him happy. Amami, convinced he deeply liked this friend, caused both to blush. Mahara stammered, shyly coughing at her casual remark, which Amami found cute. When Asanagi asked what Amami wanted to discuss, she stood and asked Mahara to be her friend. The next day, Amani greeted Mahara in class, surprising others. He'd accepted her friendship, unable to find a reason to refuse, but her closeness made him feel conspicuous. When he asked Amani a simple question, she ignored him and left, leaving him feeling like a total loner. Asanagi texted, apologizing for their princess during lunch. Mahara led them to a quiet school spot, a former smoking area, explaining that finding cool places was his hobby. Asanagi wondered why she was included. Both were impressed by his homemade bento, which he said he made when he had time, using leftovers and batch-cooked vegetables. They teased he had more girl power than them, but he revealed he'd also tried making banana souffle pancakes. Amani was stunned by Mahara's pancake-making skills, but he downplayed it, saying it was just a matter of following recipes. Asanagi asked when he baked sweets, and he casually said he did it when hungry, which seemed odd since most would hit a convenience store. Amami, craving his pancakes, asked if he could make them, and since he had bananas at home, he agreed. She excitedly asked to come over that day to make them, and he accepted, thrilling her. As she stepped away to get tea, Asanagi checked if he was truly okay with them visiting. He confirmed it was fine. She praised Amami's bright, puppy-like energy, then asked if people were bothering Mahara about her. He admitted he'd always been an outsider but wasn't directly bullied, so it was okay. Relieved, Asanagi urged him to tell her if anything happened, noting Amami's status as the class's cutest girl. Mahara was startled when she turned to him, acknowledging everyone's view, even outsiders like her. He dismissed the ranking as boys' nonsense, but Asanagi insisted Amami was genuinely cute inside and out, predicting Mahara would soon like her. Amami returned, ending their chat. In the dressing room, girls questioned Amami's interest in Mahara. She called him principled and attentive, like Asanagi as he listened and made eye contact. At Mahara's house, he prepared pancakes while the girls watched. Asanagi asked about ingredient costs, but he brushed it off, using leftovers. Amani offered to help, but with nothing to do, he suggested they play games. They browsed his nostalgic game collection, choosing one to play together. When the pancakes were ready, Mahara found Amami on the floor, disappointed from losing as Asanagi had used her brother's games. The pancakes amazed them with their soft, sweet texture, Mahara explaining the banana's natural sweetness made them low-calorie, perfect with syrup. Amani admitted she struggled with recipes due to temperature control, while Asanagi revealed she'd made Valentine's cookies at her all-girls school. Mahara, confused, learned they'd exchanged gifts there, recalling both attended Tachibana, a prestigious all-girls school from elementary to high school. He wondered why they chose a different high school. Snapping back, Amani proposed playing the game together next. Mahara whispered to Asanagi to go easy, but as they started, it seemed no holding back was needed. In the game, Mahara was out early, watching Amami dominate with a character and weapon chosen for looks, pulling off unpredictable moves. He eagerly asked her to repeat one so he could mimic it, while Asanagi felt momentarily left out. After the game, they thanked him and left. Mahara exhaled, drained but amazed by Amami's vibrant private cheerfulness, though it left him exhausted. On their way home, Amami realized she forgot to ask Mahara something. Since he treated them, she wanted to repay him, even if she couldn't cook. Asanagi said she wouldn't join next time, as Amami was the one eager to bond with him. Before Amani could respond, Mahara called, asking if she was free Friday. Asanagi, hiding her upset, asked with a smiley face if he was free. Amani learned he was busy every Friday. Asanagi, realizing she forgot her phone, rushed back to Mahara's. When he opened the door, her face was red from running, breathless. He asked if she forgot something. She pinched his nose, said "see you tomorrow," and left him puzzled. On Friday, Mahara showed Asanagi a new manga they'd anticipated, sitting close to read together, both wondering if it was too close. Mahara awkwardly asked if he smelled bad. She said no, too distracted to focus. An hour later, they were emotional over the happy ending. They calmed down before discussing it, Mahara unsure he could do more that day. Asanagi smiled mysteriously, asking to borrow earlier volumes to reread from the start. They read silently for an hour until Mahara turned to say he'd get coffee, only to find Asanagi asleep, snoring relaxedly on his bed. Shocked, he sat beside her, watching her sleep peacefully, and dozed off himself. A voice calling his name woke him, not Asanagi, but his mother, demanding an explanation. Asanagi woke, and Mahara's mother called Mrs. Soya, apologizing for his irresponsibility. Mahara whispered that his mom was early due to catching the last train, apologizing, but Asanagi felt bad for sleeping so deeply. After the call, Mahara's mother said Mrs. Soya approved her staying over, as it was late. Asanagi didn't want to cause more trouble, but Mahara's mother insisted it was fine, adding that Maki Mahara would escort her home tomorrow to apologize to Mrs. Soya. Asanagi offered to sleep on the sofa, but Mahara insisted she take his bed, saying he'd use the sofa. After dinner, Mahara's mother lent Asanagi pajamas and suggested she bathe first. Embarrassed, Asanagi thanked them and headed to the bathroom. Alone with Mahara, his mother initiated a serious talk. Mahara explained his friendship with Asanagi, and she noted his room was unusually tidy on Fridays. She asked how long Asanagi had been visiting. He admitted about 2 months, stressing they were just friends. His mother trusted him but cautioned that Asanagi was a girl, so he needed to be careful. Guiltily, Mahara promised to apologize to Mrs. Soya tomorrow. She teased him about nearly touching Asanagi's cheek while she slept, insisting he thought it was harmless, though he denied it. Asanagi returned, red-faced, asking for a towel, and Mahara's mother assisted her. Mahara set up pillows and blankets for Asanagi, reflecting on his mother's words. He acknowledged Asanagi's intelligence and beauty, admired by all, despite her whining over gain losses, love for junk food, and odd sleeping noises. She was still a girl, and he a boy. Asanagi entered, catching him off guard. He asked her to wait as he fussed over the room. She wore his sweatshirt, as his mother's pajamas didn't fit, and found it cozy, wanting one herself. Mahara asked if his mom was bathing, recalling her warning about being alone with Asanagi. Asanagi teased that she'd scream if he tried anything, noting his mom's quick baths. Mahara moved to leave, but Asanagi invited him to sit beside her, jokingly granting special permission on her bed for the night. She smirked, saying he'd lured her with manga, and now she was sleeping over, calling him a bad boy. He blamed her for falling asleep, and she wondered if they were both delinquents. Asanagi asked if he planned to tell Amami about their friendship, noting he'd wanted secrecy, which she respected. Mahara felt selfish for making her keep her distance and decided they should tell Amami. Asanagi agreed, promising to share when the time was right, joking Amami might flick her for the secrecy. As his mother finished bathing, Mahara started to leave, but Asanagi wished him good night. Closing the door, he knew sleep would elude him. The next day, they visited Asanagi's house. Mrs. Soya greeted them, calling Asanagi her bad girl. Mahara bowed, apologizing sincerely, but Mrs. Soya was lenient, blaming Asanagi and appreciating Mahara and his mother's kindness. Both visibly remorseful, vowed to be more cautious, satisfying Mrs. Soya. Mrs. Soya invited them in, asking what they wanted for breakfast and including Mahara. As she went to the kitchen, Asanagi whispered that her father was likely at work and her brother still asleep, so Mahara figured he'd meet them another time. Mrs. Soya, overhearing, teased about their next time plans. Surprised, Asanagi brought a boy, having assumed she was with Amami. She made Mrs. Soya promise not to tell Amami's family. Curious, she asked how Mahara met Asanagi, noting Asanagi mentioned a new friend but dodged questions. She now understood Asanagi's embarrassment. Asanagi, ignoring the teasing, ate the peaches provided, while Mrs. Soya continued joking. Mahara, thinking of a future visit, felt he could proudly call himself Asanagi's friend then. At school, the teacher announced the cultural festival, needing 1 boy and 1 girl for the student committee to manage equipment and materials. With no volunteers, she used a lottery. Mahara, wary of lotteries, drew jackpot, feeling cursed. Seeing others with club commitments, he felt slightly better, being club-free, but dreaded being alone on event day and helping with preparations. Amani's excited voice broke through. She loved festivals and wanted to explore with Mahara if he had time, though she assumed committee work was busy and offered help if she got the role. Boys grumbled that the girl representative would have to cover for Mahara, mocking his quietness. The girls, annoyed, stayed silent. Mahara accepted their criticism, feeling invisible and useless in class. Amami, fed up, stood and scolded the class for trashing Mahara and blaming him unfairly. She volunteered for the committee, wanting to work with Mahara. Lacking confidence to raise her hand initially, she now felt determined. The teacher asked Mahara if he was okay with it, and he agreed. But Asanagi raised her hand, revealing she also drew jackpot and was eager to join. She calmly told Amami she couldn't back out after committing, urging her to stay calm. The class tension spiked, and Asanagi whispered to Amami not to confront her like that, making Amami realize her misstep. Amami apologized to the class for her outburst, expressing her desire for everyone to enjoy the activity, and wished Asanagi luck. With the committee settled as Mahara and Asanagi, Amami seemed down, so Asanagi reassured her she'd done nothing wrong. Later, Asanagi met Mahara to discuss school matters. He praised her as amazing, but she brushed it off, saying she just won the lottery. She called Amami the remarkable one for standing up for a friend, likening her to a drama heroine, admitting she couldn't have done the same. Before Mahara could respond, Asanagi stood, suggesting they plan their class's festival activity after the student council meeting. She told him to take it easy, seeming slightly off, and left. Mahara blamed himself and vowed to give his all. After class, Amami waited for Asanagi, who was talking with Mahara. Asanagi suggested she go home, but Amami thanked her for stopping her from saying worse things, still worried about Mahara facing unkind classmates. Asanagi agreed, then quietly thanked Amami without explaining why, noting how annoying school event complaints were. Amami called Asanagi a prince for her actions, a compliment that delighted her, and they grabbed ice cream on the way home. The next day, Mahara prepared to share the festival plans, amazed by the class's eager input compared to the tension days earlier. Asanagi credited Amami's ability to quickly move past negativity, restoring the festive vibe. Amami proposed a maid or cosplay cafe, but Mahara shared the student council's decision. Their class would create an exhibit, as many others were doing shops. Asanagi detailed that they'd make posters or stained glass decorations for the rooftop. When the class's enthusiasm dipped, Mahara raised his hand with a suggestion that ultimately won out. After class, he and Asanagi planned a low-budget pixel art exhibit using empty cans, with Mahara volunteering to collect some from his apartment. Asanagi, impressed by his enthusiasm, noted he'd seemed timid before. With the rooftop as their canvas, visible from the school gate, they aimed to win the exhibit ranking, despite the modest prize of ballpoint pens. Asanagi saw ambition in Mahara, but he denied it, feeling responsible to ensure their class succeeded, as Amami and Asanagi had supported him. Asanagi noticed that the class lacked enthusiasm, feeling like mere background figures with their simple decoration tasks, but Mahara believed everyone was equally important in giving their all, impressing Asanagi with his perspective. While they talked, a mother and her friend arrived, displaying cans they'd collected from the school cafeteria, surprising Maki Mahara that they'd begun gathering them. Amani added that they'd secured permission to use an empty classroom for storage. During their chat, Asanagi recalled the lottery day, admitting she'd lied about winning the jackpot and felt guilty about it. As the school festival preparations kicked off, the whole class got involved, with Amami, the color separation leader, working eagerly despite the boys admiring her charm amidst the trash. Asanagi struggled to replicate the art, but Mahara found it satisfactory, and though it was tough for her, she was pleased they'd chosen Saw as the theme. Mahara doubted the girls would agree on it due to its lack of popularity, but Asanagi clarified it was a group vote, not her personal preference. They added colors, turning it into pixel art, and planned the color distribution before linking the cans. Amani complained about finding cigarettes in many cans, and though the worst ones were unusable, Asanagi suggested washing the juice cans as a precaution. Amani asked if they were creating the art and whether the blueprint was ready, but Asanagi said it wasn't, so Amani proposed drawing it herself. Maki Mahara was skeptical, but Asanagi encouraged her, and soon Amami completed a stunning drawing, surprising everyone despite her unfamiliarity with the genre. Asanagi wanted to use it but first asked Amami to color and finalize it, with Amani delegating her tasks to Nita to assist. Asanagi made a backup copy, and Amani apologized for past chaos she caused, feeling bad, but Mahara never saw it that way and noticed Asanagi hadn't shared their relationship with Amami. Amani called Asanagi her prince, revealing they'd been close since grade school, but Asanagi's sudden decision to attend a different school shocked her, prompting Amami to study hard to follow. In junior high, they hung out in a group of 4, but Amani kept her plans secret until autumn, fearing she'd miss the festival with Asanagi. Mahara, seeing their bond, envied their friendship, wishing for a similar connection. While Asanagi copied Amami's sketch, 2 classmates praised Amami's talent and thanked Asanagi for her calming presence during a chaotic homeroom, noting they balanced each other perfectly. That night, at home, Asanagi and Amami worked together, with Asanagi helping finalize touches, their playful dynamic reminiscent of their grade school days, bringing Amami a sense of nostalgia. Amami shared that Sa and Minaka planned to visit, marking their first reunion since graduation. The next day, she and Asanagi arrived at school with the completed blueprint, exhausted but determined not to skip the class activity. Makimahara texted Asanagi, praising her efforts, and since it was Friday, suggested she rest at home, promising to finish the pixel art himself on Saturday and send her the file. Alone that Friday, Makimahara felt the quietness of his house while coloring the grid, noting positions and counts. Missing Asanagi, he called her, waking her up and feeling guilty when he heard her sleepy voice. Stumbling over his words, he asked if it was okay to handle the blueprint alone, apologizing again for disturbing her. Asanagi, sounding pleased, accepted Makimahara's invitation to hang out at his house, teasingly calling him a rabbit for not wanting to be alone, which embarrassed him until she admitted she felt lonely too and asked to come over. Makimahara eagerly offered to pick her up, and as they walked, they discussed collecting empty cans, with Asanagi amazed that he'd sourced some from a pizza shop. Amani spotted them heading to Makimahara's house together. At his place, Asanagi reviewed his work while Makimahara, still apologetic for waking her, suggested she rest if needed. Nervous about sleeping over and possibly oversleeping, Asanagi hesitated, but Makimahara assured her he'd wake her. While eating leftover pizza, she suddenly confessed, asking him not to be upset, admitting she'd lied about the committee lottery, pulling a dud but pretending otherwise. Makimahara, confused why she thought he'd be mad, reassured her it didn't matter since she hadn't won, and dismissed the idea that being paired with him was a penalty. He valued her support, noting how she'd stood up for him in her own way, and thanked her. As he began to say more, the doorbell rang, not his mom who wasn't home, but Amami. She apologized for the late visit, asking if Asanagi was there. Makimahara invited her in, but she declined, planning to leave soon to avoid intruding. Before she could explain, Makimahara clarified that he and Asanagi had grown close recently, and he'd called her over to help with festival preparations. Amami, observant, had already noticed Asanagi's early departures for Samarin and Makimahara's thoughtful gesture of getting her coffee with milk without her asking. Makimahara admitted he felt responsible for the situation, explaining that he and Asanagi initially bonded over shared hobbies like movies. He asked Amami to keep their closeness a secret to avoid strange rumors among classmates. Amami took it well, curious why Asanagi hadn't told her, but said she already understood the situation and didn't need it spelled out, promising to keep it from others, especially not telling another friend. She then chose to head home, declining Makimahara's offer to walk with her. Amani seemed puzzled by the exchange, and Asanagi thanked Makimahara for inviting her before leaving them both confused. It was the first time Amami had seen Asanagi act that way. On Monday, Makimahara texted Asanagi in class, but she didn't respond, making him worry she might skip school. Just then, Asanagi and Amami entered the classroom, acting normal again. The teacher announced 2 days dedicated to festival preparations, and during the talk, Amani texted Makimahara, asking if he'd spoken to Asanagi since Friday. She admitted feeling too awkward to contact Asanagi over the weekend, but Asanagi had visited her house that morning as usual, apologizing for Friday's events and seeking advice. Before Makimahara could reply, Asanagi asked him to distribute instructions, explaining they'd follow the handed-out printout and might need to pull an all-nighter if they fell behind. While she spoke, Makimahara reflected on his constant thoughts about Asanagi and their secret, wondering if she was troubled by her own. During work, Makimahara insisted on speaking with Asanagi about something important. She was confused, busy directing everyone, but Amani and the B team assured her they were managing fine with the blueprint. Makimahara persisted, and Asanagi reluctantly agreed to talk privately. After they left, the class buzzed with curiosity about what he wanted to say. Alone, Asanagi scolded Makimahara for causing a scene, but he explained he had to because she'd been ignoring him. As they talked, Makimahara began cleaning a storage room, following his teacher's advice to tidy rarely used areas. Asanagi, noticing his work, asked if he wasn't going to ask her anything, curious about his intentions. Makimahara expressed that he wanted to understand Asanagi's thoughts but chose not to push her, mirroring how she never pried into his past, like his father's absence or his lack of middle school friends, believing true friends respect such boundaries. He promised to wait until she was ready to open up, but Asanagi, catching him off guard, hugged him from behind, revealing her vulnerability despite always seeing herself as strong. As a child, she'd seen a girl crying alone and left her friends to comfort her, discovering it was Amami, new to the area and friendless. While walking home, Amami shared how her old classmates shunned her, first thinking it was her gray hair, then learning it was her voice and speech that set her apart, leaving her unsure how to connect. Asanagi, holding her hand, reassured her she wasn't alone and offered friendship, undeterred by the risk of others rejecting her for it, cementing their bond. Amami's first laugh struck Asanagi, who believed others were just jealous of Amami's doll-like features, fair skin, big eyes, and smooth hair. Asanagi introduced her to others, ensuring she was never isolated, and when they later shared a class, classmates chose Amami as leader, a role she doubted but Asanagi encouraged, seeing her grow from a timid crybaby into someone who cherished friends. A classmate once called them a princess and prince together, a label Asanagi embraced to keep Amami smiling, believing she could always be strong, hiding her exhaustion to maintain that image, convinced she didn't need to confide in anyone. Back in the present, Maki Mahara, flustered, didn't know how to respond as Asanagi called him an idiot. Admitting his kindness made her feel like a coward who might take advantage of him. She stopped him from looking at her, apologizing, while Maki Mahara confessed he feared he'd hurt her unknowingly and was scared when she went silent. When she asked if he was angry, he assured her he wasn't, prompting her to laugh and thank him, vowing to share all her secrets and lies, not just with him, but with Amami too, after being honest with herself first, determined to give her all until the end. Before leaving the storage room, Maki Mahara reassured her he was on her side. In the next chapter, the rooftop decorations were completed perfectly, relieving the team, and the students' attitudes toward Maki Mahara shifted positively now that their duties were done. With the festival preparations chaotic but complete, everyone felt free, and past tensions seemed forgotten, teaching Maki Mahara that constantly adapting to others wasn't always necessary. Sometimes things worked out effortlessly, a lesson embodied by Asanagi, who stood before him, handing back his committee armband. Noticing his exhaustion, she asked if he was sure he didn't need a nap, as he was so drained he'd fall asleep instantly if he closed his eyes. He praised their incredible teamwork, amazed that even he could contribute so much despite his overthinking, and encouraged Asanagi, confident she could succeed too. Amani arrived with drinks secretly provided by their teacher, and when Maki Mahara asked if she'd slept, she said she was fine, having eaten breakfast. Realizing she might be intruding on their moment, Amani stood to leave, but Asanagi stopped her, wanting to discuss something from their middle school days. Back then, though in the same class, their friends Sa and Manaka were in another, warning Amami that clinging to Asanagi might make new students mock her, but Asanagi dismissed their concerns. Everywhere they went, people saw them as inseparable, and when Amami became class leader, Asanagi trusted her ability, though others gossiped about her popularity, viewing her as a status symbol. One day, two girls invited Amami to a pool outing with students from another school, catching her off guard. She agreed to ask her parents, assuming Asanagi could join, but the girls retracted the invitation upon hearing Asanagi's name and left. Spotting Asanagi afterward, Amami explained the brief interaction, unsure why she was invited but eager to visit the city pool with Asanagi. Asanagi found the girls' behavior odd but brushed it off, valuing their compatibility, which deepened their bond beyond mere friendship. Unchanged yet stronger. By their third year, Asanagi noticed shifts. She invited other girls to the cinema, but they declined, and she hesitated to ask Amami, feeling it unfair without Sa and Manaka, who were busy studying. Feeling guilty about their drifting friendships, Asanagi was stunned to hear Sa's voice and see Sa, Manaka, and Amami hanging out across the street without her, leaving her hurt and confused. Asanagi, hurt and confused, overheard Sa, Manaka, and Amami at a cafe, despite Sa and Manaka claiming they were too busy to hang out, revealing their lie about excluding her. Amami, unaware of the setup, wanted to get Asanagi a gift, but Sa redirected the conversation, suggesting Asanagi was too busy studying to join, while Amami, slow to pick up on the deception, worried about Asanagi's grades and felt compelled to help. The other girls grew annoyed at Amami's constant focus on Asanagi, and Asanagi, listening in, realized Sa and Manaka had orchestrated the meetup without her, questioning their motives and choosing to act as if she hadn't noticed, though she suspected this wasn't their first betrayal. Deciding to apply to a different school, Asanagi cited tuition costs and the availability of public schools, keeping her true reasons private to spare their feelings, while Amani insisted on applying with her, sparking a brief moment of joy for Asanagi despite her fear of future betrayals and loneliness, even with Amami by her side. When it was time to part, Asanagi confronted Sa and Manaka after Amami left, revealing she knew they'd lied about the movie outing and had seen them together, demanding to know if she'd wronged them. especially since they'd soon part ways, promising not to tell Amami. They admitted jealousy over her bond with Amami, believing they could easily replace her since she seemed ordinary, prompting Asanagi to end their friendship, urging them to stay friends with Amami but declaring she was done, reflecting that if both she and Amami were seen as equals, no one would criticize them, though she held no blame, captivated by Amami from the start. On the rooftop, Asanagi shared with Amami and Makimahara why she avoided Naka and others during the festival, and while Amami called them awful, she understood their curiosity-driven actions but couldn't forgive them for hurting her best friend, a sentiment that warmed Asanagi's heart. Yet overwhelmed, Asanagi admitted to hating Amami, immediately apologizing for her outburst, asking for space to collect herself, and leaving, with Makimahara reassuring a worried Amami he'd follow her, noting their shared traits. Finding Asanagi alone in the classroom, Makimahara ignored her request for solitude, pointing out that if she truly wanted to be alone, she'd have hidden better, determined to support her. Asanagi felt terrible for her harsh words to Amami, believing she was awful, but Makimahara reassured her, saying she hid her struggles to protect Amami's trust in their friends, admitting she'd called Amami cute and popular yet felt hurt when compared to her mind tempting her to isolate again. She also kept quiet about Makimahara to Amami, fearing Amami might steal him away. Makimahara offered a tissue, praising her efforts, and she playfully asked for more compliments, agreeing she'd done her best. Meanwhile, Amami reflected on Asanagi's words on the rooftop, and Makimahara, trying to cheer Asanagi, awkwardly asked about Friday plans, then second-guessed himself, wondering if space would help her enjoy the week, suggesting Asanagi and Amami needed time to mend their bond without ending their friendship, hoping they'd still text normally. Asanagi interrupted his rushed words, noting his panic mirrored her own worries, realizing he was affected too, and asked how he'd feel if they stopped hanging out, to which he admitted he'd be lonely, wanting their connection to last forever, while also hoping she'd reconcile with Amami, earning a teasing remark from Asanagi about his selfishness, though she thanked him for his honesty. Amami texted Asanagi that she'd finished committee work and was heading to the rooftop, prompting Asanagi to agree to meet her, determined to take the lead in repairing their friendship, apologizing to Makimahara for being even more selfish. When Amami arrived, Asanagi apologized for her secrets and lies, and Amami, calling herself clueless, apologized for missing Asanagi's pain despite being so close, owing to be true friends, not just in name, by learning more about her and becoming reliable, promising honesty. Asanagi announced she'd stop spending as much time with Makimahara, admitting she used him as an excuse to avoid Amami's after-school invites, exploiting both. Amami asked if Makimahara was okay with this, and he supported Asanagi's choice, but Amami called them both clueless, urging Asanagi to consider her perspective, questioning if Asanagi's actions truly counted as honesty from where she stood. Amami insisted that if Asanagi and Makimahara truly wanted her friendship, they should have listened to her, then joined their hands, urging them to explore the festival together, leaving Asanagi stunned at her bold move. Hand in hand, Asanagi and Makimahara wandered, drawing smiles from classmates who found them adorable, though Makimahara wondered if others saw it as a playful penalty. Neda snapped a photo, and when Asanagi questioned her, Neda reassured her she'd send it later, flashing a grin before dashing off, prompting Asanagi to vow a playful forehead flick. Makimahara noted Asanagi seemed like herself again, a sight he'd missed, and as they strolled, she realized they were truly at the festival, with Makimahara admitting he hadn't planned their route, a feeling she shared, leading them to roam freely. They grabbed food, discovering they were famished, and after eating, continued exploring, stumbling upon a haunted house. Asanagi admitted her fear of scary things, but Makimahara teased her about disliking B-tier horror, assuring her a class exhibit wouldn't be too intense. Inside, they encountered ghost-like figures, and Makimahara screamed, begging Asanagi not to leave him, while she quipped he never disappointed, as he found even upperclassmen terrifying. To calm him, Asanagi bought him a drink, pointing out their class's mosaic artwork from their spot, which looked stunning, prompting Makimahara to ask if she'd aim to win, suggesting they might have, emphasizing that her perspective mattered most to him. She agreed, clarifying if he meant the exhibit, and he brushed it off, saying both as Asanagi mentioned her usual coffee order, asking if it was okay, while Makimahara opened chips she'd brought. They played a game, spotting a rare Artcopter feather with a 3% drop rate, crucial for crafting an underground key, a goal Asanagi had set. Excited, they played, but Asanagi died, apologizing, and when they restarted, she spawned in an unfamiliar area, with Makimahara promising to rescue her, teasing if she was getting worse at games. She countered, blaming her busy schedule as movies and videos piled up, and Makimahara showed her * Fisherman vs. Shark *, clarifying it wasn't a documentary but could feel like horror with the right company. Asanagi was about to suggest watching the movie together when Amami called out, sitting nearby, playfully referring to herself as a ghost and asking if Asanagi wanted to join her, apologizing for not noticing her earlier. Caught up in fun with Makimahara, Amani admitted she couldn't bear being apart from them, recalling how she joyfully made them hold hands to explore the festival, but felt she'd been a bother lately, hoping they'd stay close until the next Friday while she'd haunt them as a ghost, not wanting Asanagi to distance herself from Makimahara. She asked to borrow Makimahara the following weekend, promising to make the most of her time with Asanagi, and they hugged, with Makimahara sensing their bond returning to normal. Amani forgave Asanagi and Makimahara for past tensions, calling herself a ghost again as she prepared to leave, and when Asanagi asked if she'd be okay alone, Amami reassured her to enjoy their time, bidding them goodbye. Makimahara, reflecting on the festival's chaos and resolution, including Asanagi's petition and Amami's plans with school friends, believed things would go smoothly, though he initially doubted Amani's claim of vanishing post-festival, which she did. Thinking back on his autumn friendship with Asanagi, full of new experiences and challenges, Asanagi interrupted, asking if they'd stop tidying up, noting rumors sparked by their hand-holding even neat as teasing, prompting Makimahara to suggest they no longer needed to hide their friendship. Asanagi asked if she could call him Maki, and he agreed, dubbing her Jai, making her laugh excitedly, though he teased her for being cheeky, rejecting her playful claim that he liked her, arguing like carried deep meaning and was too complex to admit casually, which could cause trouble. Asanagi boldly said she liked him, flustering him, then teased she might love him, shocking him further before heading out, with Makimahara escorting her downstairs, offering a heating pad for the cold, thanking her for her confession, admitting his lonely past where classmates ignored him, yet her playful companionship brought him joy. Asanagi reaffirmed she liked him wholeheartedly, asking if he meant it, and he clarified he did, but as someone he'd secretly hung out with, deepening their bond. Makimahara, marveling at their friendship, admitted he'd struggled to face people before but now, having tasted true connection, wanted to take things slowly, prompting Asanagi to tease if he meant dating only after an arranged wedding, to which he fumbled, saying it was something like that. She called him overly serious, agreeing to his pace, then kissed his cheek and dashed off, with Makimahara chasing her, insisting he'd walk her home despite her noting it was still light outside. In the next chapter, on a cold winter morning, Makimahara, who disliked winter, dreaded leaving his warm Fujon for a friendless school, but shook off his gloom, reflecting on his changed life, and got up. Brushing his teeth, he received a message from Asanagi saying she was at his door. He opened it to find her ready to walk to school together, asking her to wait as he hurriedly fixed his hair, hoping she didn't notice he'd just woken up. As Asanagi made him coffee, he packed his lunch and changed, reassured by her that there was no rush, though he thought he was late, surprised by her early arrival. Noticing his pajamas, Asanagi revealed she owned the same pair, amusing Makimahara with their couple-like vibe, and they left for school. Asanagi asked about his mother, and he explained her frequent December night shifts, agreeing the year-end was busy. Then, feeling the chill, he held her hand, claiming it was just for warmth. Amani spotted them, greeting them warmly, and though Asanagi downplayed their closeness, Amani clarified she meant no harm, making Makimahara reflect on how their festival drama had settled, their presence brightening the class. Amani playfully hugged Asanagi, asking Makimahara if she looked cute, which he affirmed, sparking sweet bickering between him and Asanagi. In class, Nita teased Makimahara, calling him the blessed class representative, though he denied it, aware their exhibit's unexpected success had made him a topic of gossip. Rumors of him dating a club girl or excelling at events, making him realize how much had changed swiftly. Contemplating his feelings, Makimahara knew he wanted to confess to Asanagi, aware it might be obvious as his first confession loomed. Makimahara resolved to confess his feelings to Asanagi on the 24th, hoping it would feel routine yet meaningful, and messaged her that he was free, only for Asanagi to jokingly call him a pervert, shocking him as he clarified he just wanted to hang out, suggesting they bake a cake at his place if she liked. She questioned his baking skills and apologized, citing a prior commitment, as she, Amami, and Nida discussed a town hall party their school was hosting for multiple schools, meant to ease exam stress, which Maki Mahara vaguely recalled from homeroom. Asanagi asked if he'd submitted his form, but he dismissed it as irrelevant, prompting Nida to suggest he could still join, though he insisted they enjoy it without him, regretting his oversight but downplaying the date's importance. Nida clarified she'd split off with her boyfriend, a senpai who confessed to her during the festival, piquing Amami's curiosity, while Maki Mahara reflected on others boldly seizing opportunities, wishing he could move forward with Asanagi despite his doubts. After school, Asanagi mentioned an awkward talk with Amami about Takebana Girls' School attending the party, an unexpected complication from her application, though she was pressured not to cancel and planned to eat heartily and leave early, playfully asking for Maki Mahara's cake, which he promised to make any time. Maki Mahara's thoughts drifted to Asanagi's cheek kiss, her lips lingering in his mind, noticing she was staring at his, and when he asked why, she pointed out his dry lips, applying lip cream to his face, explaining it was a new tube for him. Flustered, he mentioned an indirect kiss, assuming her embarrassment, but she teased that his lips were a tragedy and the balm was his, adding she wouldn't mind an indirect kiss with someone close, playfully asking what he'd do about it, leaving him flustered yet charmed. Maki Mahara, flustered, said he'd be okay with an indirect kiss if the other person didn't mind, and as they reached Asanagi's home, he realized he'd likely spend Christmas Eve alone, recalling his parents' divorce last Christmas, a painful memory that resurfaced despite not knowing its cause. At school, Asanagi invited him to the cafeteria where she and Amami were eating udon, with Nida urging him to join just for fun, though he hesitated, feeling odd without buying food, noticing the girls seemed closer lately. Nida explained they were protecting Amami, who noted being alone drew more people to her, which Maki Mahara attributed to her visibility as Christmas neared, shifting attention from Asanagi to her. Nida teased Asanagi about a misrepresentative, confusing her as she clarified Maki Mahara was just a friend, while Amami mentioned most people approached her casually, but some weirdos made odd remarks like a stranger suggesting they find a private spot, unsettling Maki Mahara. At the cafeteria, Maki Mahara ate alone for the first time in a while, but a menacing voice, Seiki from his class, called him out, leading him to a quiet spot to talk. Seiki, a baseball pitcher, asked if Maki Mahara knew him, then sought advice about Amami, confessing he'd loved her since the entrance ceremony, but focused on baseball, didn't know how to confess or date, realizing their time in the same class was short with only 4 months left. Maki Mahara suggested he confess immediately, noting Amami was likely in the cafeteria, but questioned Seiki's intentions, who admitted he wanted Maki Mahara's help because of his friendship with Asanagi, hoping to befriend Maki Mahara too and learn to talk to Amami naturally. Maki Mahara hesitated, unable to assist since Amami was his friend, fearing Seiki's reaction, and explained that Amami and Asanagi had faced challenges during the festival, still working toward a stronger friendship, complicating Seiki's request. Maki Mahara acknowledged Seiki's genuine feelings but felt the timing was off for helping, given Asanagi and Amami's recent struggles, apologizing for the bad timing and existing complications. Seiki, smiling despite his embarrassment, admitted it was bold to ask a stranger like Maki Mahara, who empathized, saying he'd have reacted similarly, regretting he couldn't assist. Seiki brushed it off, grateful Maki Mahara listened, vowing to invite Amami to the party himself, admiring Maki Mahara's gentle yet firm nature before leaving, making Maki Mahara wonder if better timing could have sparked a friendship. In the next chapter, Maki Mahara recalled a memory of his mother warmly welcoming him home, asking about school, though he often brushed her off, reflecting on his father's frequent job transfers that forced countless school changes, yet his mother's constant presence made home a comfort despite his dislike for school. After his talk with Seiki, Maki Mahara and Asanagi walked home together, and she asked what he and Seiki discussed, having seen them leave the cafeteria, teasing if they thought Maki Mahara was odd. Maki Mahara asked if she found Seiki strange, and she noted his baseball obsession, calling them an odd pair, Maki Mahara in the Go Home Club and Seiki in sports. Recalling Seiki's words about finding happiness just watching Amami, Maki Mahara asked Asanagi if they could meet after the Christmas Eve party, wanting to share something important, quickly begging her not to call him a pervert, clarifying he didn't expect her to stay over. She agreed to meet, noting the party might end around 8 or 9, asking if that worked, and he confirmed, suggesting she inform Mrs. Soya she'd be late, while she offered to tell his mom he'd be out too. They parted and Mrs. Soya greeted her warmly, discussing the 24th, aware of the party with Amami. As Asanagi asked if she could return home a bit later, seeking her approval. After the party, Makimahara received a message from Asanagi confirming she told Mrs. Soya she'd be home late on the 24th, followed by 2 more messages clarifying she'd be quite late with permission, ending with her playful pervert jab, leaving Makimahara sleepless, overanalyzing its meaning before forcing himself to stop. Leaving his room, he found his mother smoking in the living room, apologizing for her stress from work, though she noted it was milder than last year's divorce turmoil, and when Makimahara struggled to mention the 24th, she guessed it involved Guy, which he confirmed, explaining they'd play late at his house. She assured him it was fine, promising to call Asanagi, surprising Makimahara that they'd exchanged numbers, and tease how he befriended such a cute girl, asking if she'd sleep over like before, which she quickly denied, insisting it wasn't a date but a friendly hangout, despite it being Christmas Eve. Amani, however, invited herself, having learned from Asanagi the previous night that she couldn't walk her home post-party due to plans with Maki, her expression betraying her feelings, though Asanagi insisted they weren't dating yet. In a flustered moment, Asanagi told Amami it was a casual event she could join, turning their game date into a trio, leaving Makimahara conflicted, nervous that Asanagi might feel pressured too, suggesting they slow down, though he felt disappointed. Asanagi, sensing his mood, apologized, but he reassured her, excited for his first Christmas party with friends and happy to still meet, making her shyly silent. Amani mentioned Neda might join if she broke up with her boyfriend, which she wouldn't, sparking laughter as Makimahara noticed students practicing baseball nearby. Someone tapped his shoulder, revealing Asanagi was a hot topic, with guys asking for introductions, which he declined, warning Makimahara to confess soon since he hadn't yet, urging him not to miss his chance. Makimahara stood speechless, and when Amami approached, curious about the unusual pairing, the friend panicked, heightening her intrigue. Amani wished Seiki and his teammate luck with baseball practice before leaving Seiki visibly embarrassed, while Makimahara, back in class, mulled over Seiki's advice, aware rushing his confession to Asanagi was unwise despite their close friendship, yet conflicted since he'd advocated for taking things slowly, especially with only one prior outing, which he now wanted to be open about, hesitating as he began texting her. Asanagi interrupted, excitedly showing him a new mushroom shark film, suggesting they watch it next Friday, but Makimahara, blushing, asked her out for a date the following Saturday, clarifying he meant somewhere special, not his house, and she eagerly agreed, both momentarily stunned by the moment. She gushed about the film, then confirmed the Saturday date, adding he needed to be free Friday afternoon to shop for date outfits, insisting they do it properly, promising to look cute if he dressed nicely too, which he reluctantly accepted. Later, while Makimahara ate lunch, Asanagi and Amami debated not their own outfits but his, tailoring choices to his budget, struggling to find a good fit, with Asanagi wishing she could see him try them on, though she felt shopping together might blur into another date. Amami, excited to see Maki try clothes, suggested joining them, not wanting to intrude, and Asanagi, valuing her fashion sense, agreed, while Nani planned to try party outfits, though Asanagi warned her about overspending with the party and supplementary lessons looming. Makimahara, unfazed, agreed, but when Amani begged Asanagi to help her study to avoid extra lessons, a friend asked Makimahara, as class representative, about his exam confidence, to which he explained that, friendless, he studied during free time, never tiring of it despite months of routine, ensuring he'd pass. Makimahara, confident in his exam readiness due to his habit of studying during free time, was interrupted when Seiki tapped his shoulder, clarifying it wasn't about him, prompting Makimahara to recall Seiki's plan to approach Amami himself, so he stepped away, leaving Seiki and Amami alone as Asanagi and another friend lingered nearby. Asanagi, curious, asked Makimahara what was happening, and he explained Seiki intended to invite Amami to the party, which Seiki soon did, mustering the courage to ask her directly, catching her off guard, though she declined. Seiki apologized for his abruptness and left the classroom, earning admiration from the girls for his bold public confession, despite some classmates gossiping about him behind his back, spurring Makimahara to check on him and update Asanagi. Makimahara found Seiki sitting alone in the school's backyard and joined him, admitting he'd rushed things with Amami, which Seiki already regretted, confirming he planned to invite her to the party, even practicing his lines and writing them on his hand, but blanked out in the moment, realizing too late he'd fumbled. After a brief silence, Seiki asked if classmates were gossiping, embarrassed to return, and Makimahara reassured him their talk seemed unrelated, earning Seiki's respect as a good guy, though Makimahara clarified being gentle wasn't the same, making Seki laugh. When asked if he'd give up on Amami, Seki admitted her rejection stung, but his feelings lingered, finding it hard to move on, especially with classmates' teasing, which he disliked but planned to ignore, questioning why he hung out with such people, grateful for Makimahara's understanding. This gave Seki courage to face the class, realizing he'd put Amami in an awkward spot, and when Makimahara questioned if Seki truly wanted his friendship, Seki enthusiastically confirmed, suggesting they'd enjoy hanging out, shaking hands as new friends before returning to class. Makimahara later told Asanagi and Amami that Seki wanted Amami to forget his confession and apologize for her discomfort, but Amami, distracted by her sandwich, missed it, though Makimahara was relieved by her cheerfulness. Asanagi suggested telling Seki not to worry since Amami was used to such situations, though explaining was tricky, and Amami, noting their busy day, tasked Maki with leading while they checked trends and planned the shortest route, proposing yakiniku afterward as they linked arms. A man addressed as Mr. Mahara by a woman watched them, silently noting a young man resembling his son, while the group headed to a second-hand clothing store, their first visit in 2 months since a fun outing at a burger restaurant and game center, where an embarrassing moment Makimahara couldn't articulate overwhelmed him. As he reflected, Amami slipped and Makimahara caught her arm, her noticing his large, chapped hands, comparing them to Nozomi's worst ones, asking about hand cream just as Asanagi appeared between them. Asanagi informed them it was time to leave, prompting panic as Amami apologized for not realizing sooner, and Makimahara also expressed regret for being somewhat thoughtless. Asanagi clarified she wasn't upset and might have done the same, then took Makimahara's hands, causing him to make an odd expression that led her to question what was wrong. She teased that he was the one who grabbed her hand, assuring him it was okay. Noticing a store employee losing focus, Asanagi guided her to the first store they intended to visit, searching for a top. Amani spotted a coat and sought Asanagi's opinion, noting that since Makimahara wasn't very tall, it might make him look childish. While Amani browsed the women's section, Asanagi handed Makimahara another top to try, though his attention was caught by a smiling shop assistant. Amami pulled Asanagi aside, suggesting shorter outerwear or an oversized piece to make Makimahara appear taller, adding that a thick knit sweater would complement his A-line figure better than an I-line. Their detailed discussion continued, and Makimahara jotted down key points, eager to leave quickly. After purchasing the outerwear, they searched for an underlayer, making Makimahara feel like a doll being dressed up. Trying a non-black shirt, he liked its warmth, and the girls approved, so they bought it and continued shopping for pants and shoes. Exhausted from being dragged between stores and overthinking, Makimahara felt like a mannequin, but the girls remained enthusiastic while browsing accessories. Excusing himself for a bathroom break, Makimahara reflected on buying items for every part of his body, feeling confident wearing them with Asanagi, though curious about her outfit, imagining her looking adorable in jeans and a hoodie. Lost in thought, he bumped into a man, scattering his papers. Makimahara apologized immediately and helped gather them, and the man admitted his own carelessness before recognizing Makimahara. It was Mr. Mahara, Makimahara's father, whom he hadn't seen since before the summer holidays. Mr. Mahara apologized for being absent due to work on a station rebuilding project, and Makimahara reassured him not to worry, acknowledging the demands of running a construction company. Curious, Makimahara asked about upcoming meetings, learning his father was heading to one. Concerned, he inquired if his father was overworking, but Mr. Mahara assured him he was healthy, citing regular physical exams. Shifting topics, Mr. Mahara asked if Makimahara was shopping, to which he replied he was looking for sneakers. Recalling their last summer meeting when Makimahara admitted to having few friends, Mr. Mahara asked if things had changed. Blushing, Makimahara confessed he was still shy and hadn't made many friends. Skeptical but not pushing, Mr. Mahara apologized for the sensitive question, and Makimahara asked if they could talk longer or if he needed to return to the office immediately. As they were parting ways, a woman approached Mr. Mahara, apologizing for interrupting and expressing concern about his absence from the office. She hesitated upon seeing Makimahara, and Mr. Mahara introduced her as Matato, one of his employees, and presented Makimahara to her. Matato bowed and greeted Makimahara politely, and after brief pleasantries, Makimahara left, noting his father's busy schedule. Rejoining the girls who were chatting lively, Asanagi voiced worry, pointing out Makimahara hadn't checked her messages and jokingly threatened to call the lost child staff to find him. Laughing it off, they headed to an affordable yakiniku restaurant. Makimahara's mind lingered on his father as the girls kept talking, and Asanagi, sensing his distraction, asked if he forgot to buy something, but he reassured her he was okay. Despite his upbeat attitude, Makimahara was preoccupied with thoughts of his parents' divorce, curious about its cause, but avoiding asking his mother to spare her feelings. During rare meetings with his father, he had inquired, only to hear it was entirely his father's fault. Makimahara recognized that his parents, always busy, spent little time together and likely decided to divorce independently, with little input from a child like him. Though he tried not to fixate, Mr. Mahara's concern about his friendships made Makimahara question why he wasn't fully honest, feeling guilty for everyone involved. Lost in thought, he missed Asanagi calling him, and she asked if he wanted the bar drink option, to which he nodded. Amami, noticing his distraction, asked if he was tired, but Makimahara insisted he was fine and shifted focus, asking if they ordered food via the touch panel. Amani recommended beef tongue, kalbi, and grilled seafood, and as they ordered, Makimahara imagined one day telling Mr. Mahara about Asanagi if their relationship endured. Amami, amused, ordered ice cream first, clearly thrilled, and Asanagi teased that she wasn't a kid anymore and would fill up fast. Amani countered playfully that Asanagi would get full first from her cola and white soda mix, then suggested making a cola float. Their playful exchange warmed Makimahara's heart, and he felt that with Asanagi and others around, good things awaited this Christmas. As the food arrived, they dug in eagerly, and Makimahara chose to focus on positive thoughts. Later, standing before the mirror, Makimahara struggled to pick a hairstyle for their 11 o'clock date, feeling he was wasting time overthinking his look despite having plenty of time. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, startling him, and through the intercom, Asanagi's voice playfully complained about the cold, asking to be let in. He quickly buzzed her in, and when she entered, she greeted him brightly. Flustered, Makimahara forgot to respond, prompting a light scolding from Asanagi. Realizing his error, he apologized and invited her in, and she asked if he wanted tea or coffee. Makimahara offered to make the tea, but Asanagi insisted on doing it herself, asking if he preferred milk or sugar as she prepared the drinks. He couldn't help but notice her subtle makeup, which made her look radiant, almost glowing, as if he could sense her aura. Lost in admiration, he stared quietly until Asanagi caught his gaze and asked what he was thinking. Embarrassed, Makimahara stammered and shifted the topic, though he couldn't ignore her pleasant scent. Suddenly, Asanagi teased him for seemingly staring at her legs, and he quickly clarified he was only wondering if she was cold. Asanagi admitted she was freezing and regretted not covering her legs, confessing she endured it to look her best for him despite the impracticality. Her cheeks flushed as she shared how much effort she put into her outfit, and Makimahara, touched by her honesty, reassured her she didn't need to try so hard and risked catching a cold. Still blushing, Asanagi admitted she wanted to look pretty for him and described the time spent choosing her clothes. Reflecting on his simple wardrobe, Makimahara decided to put more effort into his appearance, even if it meant getting a part-time job for better clothes. Asanagi stood up, playfully asking his opinion on her outfit, and though Makimahara hesitated, she laughed, saying she already knew his thoughts from his expression when he opened the door. Embarrassed but sincere, Makimahara complimented her, admitting he was captivated, and Asanagi, flustered yet pleased, smiled warmly. As they left the house, Asanagi asked if Makimahara forgot anything, and he confirmed he had everything. Stepping into the cold, Asanagi put on tights she'd brought relieved to have prepared, and Makimahara agreed, glad she wouldn't suffer the chill. When the wind blew, causing her skirt to flutter, she asked Makimahara to shield her from onlookers, and he complied, though his eyes occasionally wandered. Asanagi noticed, teasingly accusing him of staring the most, and though he apologized, she playfully called him a pervert. Their light-hearted exchange deepened their bond, and she teased that he looked at her that way even during games, prompting Makimahara to accidentally admit he did before apologizing. Asanagi, unfazed, laughed, saying her short skirt naturally left gaps in her defense, amused by her own phrasing. At the cinema, Makimahara realized he'd never seen a romantic movie on the big screen. Asanagi, joining him in line, mentioned the film's online popularity and her curiosity about it. Though Makimahara enjoyed romantic movies, this emotional one made him nervous. As Asanagi found their seats in the packed, couple-filled theater, he noticed they were different, and she whispered they were couple seats. Makimahara's first thought was whether they cost more, but Asanagi dismissed his worry, sat down, and said she'd always wondered about their comfort, adding with a smile that it was fine since it was a date. Makimahara, still surprised, felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Makimahara responded that he understood, but they were just friends, leaving Asanagi stunned. She quickly panicked, urging him to sit since they'd already paid for the couple's seats. When Makimahara sat, he noticed the seat's soft, spacious comfort, but before he could fully enjoy it, he realized Asanagi was sitting unusually close. Confused, he asked why, and she explained it was normal for couple seats, then quietly asked what if a classmate saw them. Makimahara had been pondering the same, concluding it'd be impossible to explain being alone at a romantic movie in couple seats, him wearing clothes she chose, and her dressed up. It was clearly a date. As the movie started, Makimahara felt thankful for their fun time together. But as it progressed, he found the plot dull, centered on a terminally ill boy reconnecting with his ex. Though the premise had potential, the slow pacing made it hard to stay engaged, feeling endless in the theater compared to a casual home watch. Checking his phone, only an hour had passed, and glancing at Asanagi, he saw her absorbed in the screen. A kissing scene in the film made Makimahara uncomfortable, worsened by the couple in front kissing too, with surprisingly long, intense scenes despite no age restriction. Trying to distract himself, Makimahara froze when Asanagi leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder, her warmth pressing against him. His mind raced about what to do in public, torn between responding or suggesting they avoid such actions here. But when he turned to speak, he saw she was fast asleep. After the movie, Asanagi defended herself, calling the film boring and citing her early wake-up, both regretting not choosing their preferred movie. She apologized, but Makimahara, who enjoyed seeing her peaceful sleeping face, didn't mind and stayed quiet to spare her embarrassment. Asanagi offered to pick lunch, having researched a good date spot, but the long restaurant queue prompted another apology. Makimahara reassured her, handing her a hand warmer, and she teased him as an old man while warming her face. He mentioned having more for her feet later, and Asanagi giggled, saying being with him felt calming and relieving. When the waiter called them, they finally entered the restaurant. Makimahara felt a bit unusual, recalling how he once mocked such plans and thought waiting in long lines for lunch was pointless, but seeing Asanagi's uneasy expression, he quickly clarified he no longer felt that way. Standing in line, he realized it wasn't a waste, noticing others enjoying themselves too, and admitted he might be an old man. Though unsure if he was the ideal date, he expressed eagerness to explore new places with her and learn each time, feeling shy about his words. Asanagi laughed, finding it cute, and reassured him she felt relaxed yet excited with him. She mentioned the restaurant's tasty food but small portions, and Makimahara agreed, with her suggesting they could still eat a burger afterward. After lunch, they visited a karaoke place, Makimahara's first time, and he quickly grasped how it worked. Asanagi urged him to pick a song while she sang, and Makimahara, amazed by her idol-like voice, grew nervous about his own, feeling self-conscious if he sang too loudly. To ease him, Asanagi proposed a duet, which helped, though Makimahara kept staring at her, prompting her to say it wasn't a contest, but about enjoying together. Relieved, they sang for 2 hours, exhausting themselves, and Makimahara realized he could sing like anyone else, feeling confident for the first time thanks to her. Asanagi asked if they could join a karaoke tournament after school, but Makimahara panicked, saying singing publicly would be too embarrassing. She encouraged him, and he considered practicing more with her, nodding when she asked if it'd be just them. Asanagi liked the idea of another karaoke date, though Amami might join next time, and when Makimahara asked about Amami's singing, Asanagi said she was obsessed with it. As the sky darkened, Makimahara offered to walk home, and Asanagi slipped her hand into his pocket, where he always kept a heat pack, reminding her of their past kiss. At the metro station, Makimahara considered confessing but hesitated, unsure if the casual, comfortable day was the right moment. Holding Asanagi's hand, his heart raced despite their familiarity, and when she asked what was wrong, looking expectant, a woman called for Mr. Mahara. They turned, and she asked if Makimahara knew her, but he thought she meant another Mahara, making Asanagi giggle that it startled her. Makimahara explained it was his father's coworker, and Asanagi, aware of his father's divorce, learned Makimahara had seen them yesterday in the department store bathroom. Asanagi realized that was why Makimahara seemed distracted during their yakiniku meal, and he noted that unlike yesterday, his father and Matado's clothing today was more casual. Asanagi observed they seemed close, but Makimahara didn't care, wanting to leave before they were noticed, as meeting them now would be awkward since his father, post-divorce, deserved privacy. Suddenly, Asanagi hugged Makimahara, asking him to bear with her momentarily, explaining that his father and Matado were approaching. They passed by, and when they left, Maki Mahara apologized, but Asanaji insisted he wasn't at fault, nearly blaming someone before Maki Mahara clarified neither his father nor Matada were to blame. It was time to head home, as Mrs. Soya might worry if they were late, and Asanaji lamented how their fun mood soured. She offered to listen if anything troubled him, even if she couldn't solve his problems. At home, Maki Mahara's mother greeted him, apologizing for smoking, but he didn't mind. She asked about his date, and he admitted it was fun but exhausting, planning to skip a shower and sleep. She mentioned his father asked if next Friday night worked for an interview, and Maki Mahara, with a clear schedule, agreed. Lying in bed, Maki Mahara reflected on asking his mother if she still loved his father, given their long separation. She admitted that despite their divorce, part of her heart still loved him, and she couldn't discard their family photo album. Maki Mahara recalled taking family pictures as a kid, now a distant memory, and checked his phone for distraction, seeing Asanaji's message with a cultural festival photo taken by Na, followed by Siki asking if he had time tomorrow. Leaving his room, he found Asanaji looking at their family album, angrily asking his mother why she showed it. She explained she got nostalgic while talking, and the album was nearby. Asanaji admitted she wanted to see it. As his mother left for work, she told him to be careful heading to school. Alone, Maki Mahara teased if Asanaji was family since she was so comfortable, and she acknowledged her deep involvement. He asked if she'd eaten, creating pancake mix, and over pancakes, they discussed Friday. Asanaji suggested a study group for an upcoming test, but Maki Mahara declined, citing his meeting with his father. Surprised, she asked if he'd be okay, and he said it was routine, just catching up. She inquired about their last meeting, and he shared he planned to ask why they met, feeling uneasy about being uninformed. Asanaji asked if Maki Mahara had told his mother about his father's meeting, but he said he hadn't, feeling it wasn't necessary and likely unimportant. Wanting to shift focus, Maki Mahara suggested rescheduling their study group since he was busy Friday, and Asanaji agreed to another day. She recalled Amani asking for their help and wondered if she could join, which Maki Mahara approved, mentioning he'd also invited a guest. Later, Amani and Asanaji arrived at Maki Mahara's house, where Sai was already there, so excited he could barely stand straight, unaware Amani would be present. Sai had asked Maki Mahara for English and chemistry help the previous night, so Maki Mahara scheduled him for the same day as the girls, warning Sai he could cancel if it was too much, prompting Sai to compose himself and enter. Asanaji instructed Sai and Amami to ask Maki Mahara for English and literature help and her for math and chemistry. They began studying, with Amani confirming a correct answer and Asanaji quizzing her on a formula. They continued until Sai asked if they were ready for the test, and Amami, answering before Maki Mahara and Asanaji, called it easy for them. Sai asked about Asanaji's class ranking, and she shared she could reach single digits at her peak, but aimed for the top 10 now, impressing him. He asked Maki Mahara, who said he was 2 places behind her, leading Sai to deduce they'd be in different classes next year due to grades determining placement. Shocking Amami, Maki Mahara, previously indifferent to class changes, realized he might need to care more next year. Amami, determined not to be separated from Asanaji, vowed to study hard, planning to memorize the literature textbook and asking Maki Mahara for practice problems. The more Sai observed Amami, the more he found her quirky, especially as she quizzed Maki Mahara on verbs while Asanaji watched them closely. Noticing their bond, Maki Mahara touched Asanaji's hand to reassure her, and they moved to the next questions, with Amami deeply engaged. Sai was about to ask Asanaji something, but she was hugging Maki Mahara, overwhelming him, so he called for a break. He offered muffins, but Sai, dieting, declined, leaving Amami thrilled to eat them all. Asanaji spotted something on Maki Mahara's cheek and wiped it off when he couldn't find it, a small gesture that stunned Sai and Amami. Sai asked if they acted this way alone, and Amami, jealous, said seeing them made her want a boyfriend, catching Sai's attention. Asanaji encouraged her, noting she'd get along with anyone, but Amami said she wasn't interested in anyone specific yet. Amami envied Asanaji for having Maki, who was kind and even baked sweets for her. Asanaji remarked she prefers someone with a strong physique to match her energy, but no one fit that description. Sai, overhearing, felt discouraged. After finishing their study session, Sai thanked them, confident they'd pass the test, and Amami rallied them to avoid failing grades at all costs. Asanaji and Maki Mahara said their goodbyes, but before leaving, she asked him to turn around and hugged him from behind. Surprised, Maki Mahara asked what was wrong, and she admitted that despite knowing she was high maintenance, Amami's comments about him bothered her. Maki Mahara thought it was in jest, but Asanagi clarified it didn't upset her when he was with Sei or Manaka, but losing him to someone else would devastate her. Maki Mahara reassured her he only had eyes for her, and though she apologized for being difficult, he found her behavior cute. Asanagi said she always found him cute too, but didn't want him to call her that, confusing Maki Mahara since he thought she was adorable. Their playful exchange was cut short when they noticed Sei and Amami watching, embarrassing them both, and Asanagi left. On test day, after finishing, Asanagi reminded Amami they had one more day, but Amami was relieved to be done with her weak subjects for now, eager for a party. Asanagi suggested a wrap-up party at the beach to cheer her up, despite their Friday plans, but Na declined to join, citing inconvenience, and they didn't press her, sensing her reasons. Meanwhile, Maki Mahara met his father, who asked about his finals, and Maki Mahara noted he completed half the subjects. Mr. Mahara reflected on how much Maki Mahara had grown since summer, no longer as skinny, and asked about his test performance. Maki Mahara said he did well, except in math, even nailing uncertain guesses, earning praise as responsible. Maki Mahara then asked if his father still liked his mother. After a pause, Mr. Mahara asked why he wondered, and Maki Mahara said he was curious. Mr. Mahara admitted he no longer had romantic feelings for her, though he respected her, but living together again was out of the question. Maki Mahara asked if he enjoyed their time together, and Mr. Mahara affirmed he was his son, questioning if this was about custody disputes from their divorce. Maki Mahara then asked if his father's lack of feelings for his mother was due to being with Mitato now. Mr. Mahara noted he'd seen Maki Mahara with Asanagi last time, surprising Maki Mahara that he'd noticed them. He asked if the girl was Maki Mahara's friend, and Maki Mahara explained they'd been close for a while, but redirected the conversation, asking about his father's relationship with Mitato, as they seemed very friendly. Mr. Mahara asked if Maki Mahara thought he cheated on his mother, clarifying he only began meeting Mitato frequently after the divorce, outside of work. He recalled Mitato asking about his divorce, confirming it happened a month prior due to unresolved issues, after which she confessed her feelings. Maki Mahara asked if he loved Mitato now, and though Mr. Mahara said Maki Mahara could see it that way, Maki Mahara pressed for a clear answer, leading him to admit he did love her. Maki Mahara urged him to stop being vague and admit he had no ties to his former family, not wanting to be selfish but questioning if his father's actions suggested he should return to his mother. As Maki Mahara pondered, Mr. Mahara stood, saying he had to leave. Maki Mahara protested, noting they had time and unresolved topics, but Mr. Mahara left silently. As Maki Mahara prepared to leave, he overheard Na angrily talking on the phone and asked if she was okay. She explained her boyfriend was supposed to treat her to a meal but called to say he got a new girlfriend and wouldn't show, leaving her unable to pay for her order, expecting his treat. Maki Mahara asked how much she needed, about 2,000 yen, and as Mr. Mahara returned, thanking Na for her kindness, Maki Mahara asked if he'd cover her bill. Mr. Mahara was willing, but Na hesitated, saying she'd manage. Maki Mahara insisted on paying, saying he'd cover Na's bill while Mr. Mahara could pay his own, and Na agreed. Mr. Mahara remarked Maki Mahara didn't need to be stubborn, but Maki Mahara insisted Na was his friend, so helping her was natural, whereas he and Mr. Mahara were now strangers, so Mr. Mahara didn't need to look out for him. Walking away, Maki Mahara felt the weight of calling them strangers sink in. Na mentioned it was cold and suggested they stop by a convenience store, offering to buy Maki Mahara coffee to thank him. Maki Mahara asked if she had enough money, and she promised to repay him the day after tomorrow. Inside the store, Na shared that convenience stores were her favorite place to unwind, unlike restaurants, which felt uncomfortable. Maki Mahara admitted it was his first time eating in one, feeling like everyone was watching him. Na asked if he never ate out with friends, then recalled he didn't have any, adding that she understood loneliness since she often felt excluded. She noticed Maki Mahara's strained family ties, and when he asked about her parents, she said they got along well despite occasional arguments, always reconciling and even going on dates, sometimes forgetting her and her sister. This made Maki Mahara wonder if his own parents ever reconciled after fights, as he'd never seen it. Na explained that living with many people leads to frustrations, often tied to money or work, but they resolve and move on. Maki Mahara asked if she handled those situations well because of her environment, and she agreed, saying she could sense when someone was holding back. When Maki Mahara asked what she thought of Mr. Mahara, Na said their meeting was unproductive, feeling like Mr. Mahara was hiding something. She suggested Maki Mahara might be bottling up his own emotions, surprising him, and encouraged him to talk to someone, recommending Asanaji. Walking home, Makimahara pondered what to discuss, thinking about his desires, words, and regrets, recalling when his parents asked who he wanted to go with, and he said anyone. Meanwhile, Asanaji hoped Makimahara was okay. The next day, Makimahara woke up tired and irritable due to a test. After dressing, he saw his mother making breakfast, surprised she was up early. She explained she wanted to do something motherly since Makimahara had been handling most chores. This unexpected gesture reminded him how long it had been since they ate together. His mother shared she was taking a 2 or 3 month break from work, which surprised Makimahara. Makimahara wondered if his mother's break was due to overworking, and she reassured him there was no cause for concern, though she admitted continuing like this could ruin her health permanently. She had asked her bosses to rethink how they assigned work, promising to handle household chores from now on and thanking Makimahara for his help so far. Makimahara didn't mind the chores but seemed worried, so she assured him their finances were stable despite her break. While walking to school, Makimahara shared this with Asanaji, who felt relieved, having worried about his mother's health from overextending herself, though she apologized for intruding. Makimahara was glad his mother wouldn't overwork, meaning more time together, but despite this, he felt anxious. He wondered if it was because parents often made decisions alone, informing kids only after everything was settled, and as a child, he felt he couldn't question it. He hadn't fully discussed things with either parent. Suddenly, Asanaji recalled something, noting his family's challenges, but offering him the chance to decline her proposal. She explained her father was returning soon, knew about Makimahara from Mrs. Soya, and wanted to meet him for dinner before leaving again. Nervous but seeing it as a way for his mother to relax, Makimahara agreed. Asanaji was thrilled he'd join. When Makimahara told Amami, she jokingly offered condolences, prompting Asanaji to scold her for scaring him, while Nana and Siki teased him further. Asanaji clarified they just wanted lunch, but Makimahara felt tested. He likened himself to someone enjoying Christmas fully, but clarified he wouldn't attend the main Christmas party. Seiki urged him to join the student council's event, but Makimahara had missed the application deadline. Seiki, undeterred, led them to the student council room, where Amami had never been. Seiki entered without knocking, calling for his sister, Sei, the council president, who looked nothing like him, surprising the others. Seiki asked Sei if anyone hadn't confirmed attendance, explaining Makimahara forgot to apply. Tomu, another member, scolded Seiki for his impulsiveness and apologized, then asked Makimahara if he wanted to attend. Makimahara confirmed he did if it was okay, and Sei agreed, noting many students had canceled and the September deadline had passed, implying Seiki's influence. Makimahara apologized, feeling it was presumptuous to expect an exception, but Sei quickly reassured him, teasing that he'd look foolish spending Christmas with his sister. Tomu interrupted, explaining they couldn't bend the rules but needed help with party preparations due to a shortage of volunteers. The tasks would be simple side activities, allowing Makimahara to enjoy food or chat without recreational duties, and since her brother vouched for him, she asked if he'd fill a spot. Leaving the office, Amami was excited Makimahara could attend and suggested an after-party at Makimahara's house, inviting Nita, with everyone eager to join. Tomu apologized for not doing more, but Makimahara, sorry for the late request, promised to do his best. Tomu thanked him for being kind to her brother, shared the party schedule, and handed him printouts. Amami and others offered to help with preparations so Makimahara wouldn't be alone, and Asanaji was glad they'd spend more of Christmas together, which Makimahara appreciated. Later, Mai hoped Makimahara wouldn't seem out of place at Asanaji's family dinner. Asanaji said it was just dinner, so he could dress casually, but Makimahara worried about making a good impression. He overheard his mother talking with Asanaji's mother, Mrs. Soya, and afterward she gave him assorted sweets to pass along, urging him to relax as Asanaji was concerned about her health. Makimahara then asked his mother if she'd spoken with Mr. Mahara, noting their contact seemed minimal. He mentioned the interview's abrupt cancellation and her work break, wondering if something significant happened. She admitted Mr. Mahara scolded her for overworking, and was deeply worried about Makimahara, noticing his chapped hands from housework. Makimahara argued Mr. Mahara had no right to judge, as they had their own lives, but asked if he was mistaken. His mother revealed Mr. Mahara sent monthly money to support them, though she never used it, stubbornly proving she could manage alone. She apologized for burdening Makimahara with her pride, admitting they likely wouldn't return to living as a family of 3, but vowed to always be there for him. Makimahara asked if she was truly okay with this, and she explained that while she enjoyed work, If it made his life harder, it defeated the purpose. Makimahara expressed that he loved seeing his mother passionate about her work. She thanked him, joking that she might resume working after he graduated university and married Asanagi, apologizing for the stress she'd caused during his high school years. As he left, she reminded him to let her know if he'd stay over at Asanagi's. Walking to Asanagi's house, Makimahara slapped his face to stay composed, determined to keep smiling so Asanagi wouldn't worry. Thinking of her smile reassured him everything would be fine. When Asanagi met him, she apologized for being late but instantly sensed something was off. Makimahara insisted he was okay, upset with himself for letting her notice, determined not to make a bad impression. Mrs. Soya warmly welcomed him, thanking him for coming in the cold, and he handed her the sweets his mother prepared. Entering, Makimahara recalled his last visit when he thought her father and brother were asleep, making this his first time meeting them. Asanagi, noticing his anxiety, asked if he was all right as he looked terrified. Makimahara told her not to worry, focusing on making a good first impression to ensure everything went smoothly. Lost in thought, he bumped into a large figure, mistaking it for a wall, but it was Asanagi's brother. Asanagi scolded her brother for his poor timing as he grumbled about heading to the toilet. Makimahara politely introduced himself, but the brother only stared and walked off. Sweating, Makimahara asked if he'd been rude, but Asanagi reassured him he hadn't. Wondering how to calm down, Makimahara heard Mrs. Soya call her husband to meet him. Daichi, an imposing man, emerged, thanking Makimahara for visiting during a busy time and for looking after Asanagi, though his intense leaning prompted Mrs. Soya to tell him to smile more. She assured Makimahara that Daichi's rough appearance was just his way at welcoming him, playfully squeezing Daichi's face to show his softer side. Makimahara began to grasp the family's dynamic. Asanagi asked her father to fetch her brother, who'd escaped to the bathroom, and told Makimahara to relax. The dinner looked delicious, and Mrs. Soya encouraged Makimahara to eat freely. Nervous about dining at their home, Makimahara confirmed the food was good when asked, pleasing Mrs. Soya, who found his honesty charming. She noted her son, Riku, had been rebellious early and wondered when it would end, saying she'd never had the chance to care for well-mannered boys like Makimahara. Asanagi noted that Makimahara was similarly reserved at school, mentioned he'd been asked for a favor by the student council president recently. During dinner, Makimahara observed her family's interactions, and Daichi encouraged him to eat more meat, while Mrs. Soya teased Daichi for his nervousness. Makimahara wondered if they were a family that didn't judge based on looks. Asanagi suggested playing a game after dinner, revealing she'd gotten the new Smash Bros. Which Makimahara loved. Reiku, who'd brought the game, argued when Asanagi wanted to use his room, citing privacy, and they bickered playfully about where he'd go. Makimahara envied their closeness, but Asanagi apologized for their silly chatter, and he reassured her it was fun. Suddenly, Asanagi looked stunned, and everyone stared at Makimahara, who noticed tears on his cheeks. He recalled a memory of asking his mother about dinner. She teased if he knew what she was cooking, and he correctly guessed hamburger, thrilled when she promised glazed carrots as a reward. Mr. Mahara arrived, and Makimahara hugged him, asked if he'd been good, to which he said yes, though his mother jokingly noted he'd refused carrots. Mr. Mahara teased that meant he was bad, so Makimahara promised to eat them all. The next day, Mr. Mahara was late despite promising to be early, and his mother decided to eat without waiting, as it'd be midnight otherwise. Makimahara was upset, wanting to show Mr. Mahara his exam paper. Over time, Mr. Mahara's absences grew from once to 3 times a week, then daily, troubling his mother too. She asked how he was adjusting at his new school, and though he struggled to connect with classmates, overthinking their disinterest, he said he was fine to avoid stressing her further. Mr. Mahara, their supposed pillar, was consumed by work, creating a vast emotional distance despite living together. Makimahara often ate pizza alone as his mother worked late. When asked who he wanted to live with during their divorce, he said whoever, hiding his desire for them to reconcile and live as a family again. Back in the present, everyone looked concerned. Makimahara apologized, confused by his emotions, and when Asanagi offered a handkerchief, he excused himself to get fresh air. Maki wondered what the hell he was doing as they are all being nice to him, and yet he is now causing trouble for them. Yumi ran towards him and told him to wait, and he told her that she would catch a cold like that, and he would be back soon, and she should go back inside. She called him an idiot and mentioned that she is not the kind of person who can just ignore a friend looking that hurt. He wanted to be alone for the moment, and she asked him to shut up. She hugged him and got him. He realized that Yumi runs much faster than him, and she has got a better stamina, and she took out the handkerchief and told him that his face was all puffy. She cleaned his face and asked him to let her see his face. Maki responded that she doesn't have to and he is not a kid. She replied that he is and they both are. They can't drink, nor they can smoke, so that is why it is fine to rely on someone every now and then, and asked him if he wants to go back. They reached home and Izanagi's mother asked Maki if he was okay and he agreed. Yumi told her that they are going to talk in her room and asked if she could leave them for a while and to call her if she needed anything. They entered her room and she apologized as her room was a bit messy since she had no plans to invite someone in. They sat on the futon and he realized that he needed to apologize to them afterwards, and Yumi responded that it was fine and he should not worry about that. She further mentioned that she had a feeling, but she guessed he has been agonizing over his strained relationship with his parents. He blushed and replied that he didn't want to worry her, and she asked if she could ask what else happened, aside from what she already knew. He agreed and thought about the fact that he learned that his father was dating Minato on the day of the interview, the stuff he talked about with Nida, the rift between his mom and dad that he had never known about. He mentioned that he thought he was over his parents, and each time it hits him that they will never go back together, it feels painful for him. She hugged him and told him that he did well to handle it, and she didn't even think she would be able to deal with all that stress, and added that if he kept holding back a little more, then she wouldn't have been able to hear how he really felt like this. He mentioned that it makes him feel things would have turned out better if his parents tried to put their differences behind them, and she wanted him to forget about it. She stated that what he needs now is to eat well and get a good night's sleep, and once he feels better they will try to figure it out, as he has been looking sleep-deprived as hell lately. They cuddled and she stated that she would call this home, so he should just get some rest for now. When he came home he would find his mom had made him dinner, and he would tell his mom what happened at school. His dad would come home, and he wanted to go back to their old life where they used to sit together at the table, but before he knew it, it felt like dad and mom's time was the only thing moving forward, while his time still stood for him. It took him this long to admit that it was painful for him. Yumi and Maki woke up together on the bed and looked at each other. He blushed and went inside the blanket while she was out of the bed. He asked what time it was now, and she replied it was 8 a.m., and stated that it is a good thing they are off school today, though he probably would not have woken up even if they had school. She asked if he slept well, and he agreed. She smiled and mentioned that lending him her chest was worth it. He apologized as she went out of her way, even though he has not done that much for her. She denied it was not true and responded that he may not realize it yet, but ever since they became friends, he has saved her countless times, so she just returned the favor. He came close as he heard friends, and suddenly her mom came in her room and asked them what they were doing so early in the morning. Yumi told her to at least knock, and she stated that she did knock on the door and that the breakfast was ready. They were at the dining table when Sora told them that she has no issues with them getting close to each other, but she doesn't want her to make the same mistake she did with her father, and it will get messy if she gets carried away with her feelings. Yumi blushed and replied that she knew and stated that she has got no right lecturing her anyway. Sora responded she is not, and she is just giving her a warning. Maki realized that Miss Sora was being thoughtful of him and was not bringing up what happened yesterday. Her father tapped Maki's shoulder and asked him if they could talk alone for a while. As they were in the living room, her father mentioned that Yumi told him that his family situation is a bit complicated and asked if his parents divorced last year. Maki bowed down and apologized for yesterday, that he ended up losing his composure. Her father responded that he doesn't mind as he has put up with it well, and further mentioned that he still thinks he is pushing himself a bit too much, and if he keeps bottling up his feelings, they are bound to break down. Maki replied that even if he acted selfish, there is no way his parents would agree to reconcile with each other, so making a fuss over it will just cause trouble for his parents, and there is no point to it. Her father agreed and said it is true that perhaps nothing would change, but it is not meaningless. He was confused, and her father explained that at the very least, he can get over it. Her father patted him and told him that they have always been told to be thoughtful of others' feelings while growing up. However, he is the only one who can save himself. He removed his hand and stated that is about what Jur wanted to tell him, and apologized for butting in his private family matters. Maki replied it was okay, and her father hoped he would continue to be good friends with Yumi. Yumi said that he ended up staying over and asked him what he talked about with her dad after they finished breakfast. Maki responded that they had a man's heart-to-heart if he had to guess. She wondered what the hell that was and told Maki to come talk to her when things get tough for him, and she is not sure that she would be much help, but she believed that he is better off talking to someone else than agonizing over it by himself. She also told him that he is welcome to her house any time. He smiled and thanked Yumi, and told her that he appreciated it and that he would see her on Monday. Maki reached his home, and as he opened the door he found a note from her mom in which she mentioned she went out shopping. He looked at the table and wondered if his mother was looking at their photo album. He had tears in his eyes as he saw their family photo, and he stated that it is fine and he is allowed to wallow. He mentioned it is a nice photo, and he admitted that he wants things to go back to the way they were before. He sniffled and realized that he needed to be more honest with his feelings, and acting selfish won't change a thing. And he can't rewind time either, but he wanted to move forward, along with the person he held dear, while looking at Yume. There was a Christmas tree being decorated by them, and Amani mentioned that they are having a party. Nina told her to be careful, and Amani was glad that she gave it all for her exams. Nozomi mentioned that Amani managed to avoid failing, and Nina responded not really, she failed one subject, but they let her off the hook after she turned in her report. He stated that he was kind of nervous as some girls from a prestigious school are here today, and Nina responded that they are from Tachibana High. The students' president came and thanked them for the hard work with preps, and they are free to take a break for now and asked them to come back when it is their turn for duty. Amami told Nina and Yumi that they should go home and change clothes, and Yumi responded that their school uniforms would work just fine too. Amani asked if she did not get all hyper and started getting ready when she heard that Maki will be, but she was smacked by Yumi, and they turned away, and Yumi told Maki that it is nothing to worry about, and he should not get his hopes up. He agreed, but he was looking forward to it. Maki ran as he could not afford to take it easy either, and he saw it was snowing, and he remembered that time when he was walking with Yumi. She said that she figured he wanted to talk about how he felt about the whole situation, not that he wanted his parents to do anything in particular, and added that is what it seemed to her, and apologized if she is wrong about that. He stated that she is right on mark, but that being said, he doubt they will ever get to have a normal conversation with the three of them as a family. That is why this once, he will allow himself to act selfish, and he will try to see if he can do something to let them have that conversation. Yumi agreed and held his hand and told him that if he ever gets second thoughts, she will share some of her courage with him. Maki apologized to Minato for calling her out on such short notice. Minato stated that she was surprised when he called her, and Maki responded that he got one of her business cards before. She asked if he had any issues with his job, and he responded that he told his higher-ups that he was going to make a sales visit, which is why he won't be able to stay for long. She asked him what he wanted to talk to her about, and if it was something about his father. He told her that he wanted to ask her for a favor, and she was surprised to hear it. He wrote the time and venue on a paper and told her that he wanted her to come to the front of the Civic Hall at this time tonight and try to bring father along with her using any means possible, and gave her the note with a map. She thought about using any means possible, and Maki explained that if he just took his father at his word, he might prioritize his job and stand her up as that is how he is. He further mentioned that considering she is his father's co-worker, he figured asking this off her would be the right call. Minato replied that she heard from his father that he is a rather well-behaved kid, but he is not what she expected, and he is quite bold. He replied he is a kid after all, and she told him that she would do her best, and he mentioned that she is wearing her glasses today. She agreed and explained that she personally came here as Kyuka Minato after all. He wondered if she would become his dad's family in due time, and Minato asked Maki if she could ask for a favor of her own. He asked what, and she asked if he would like to live with his father again. Maki was surprised to hear it and asked her why. She told him that he does not have to decide straight away and he can think it over after he graduates from high school. He told her that he don't get what she is saying and asked if he would not just be a nuisance to them. She replied that is not true, and as he has worked alongside his father for a long time, but she can tell that his father looks so happy whenever he talks about him, and told him that she believes his father needs him. She stated that he needed his son, not a new partner. Maki stated that it is very selfish of her, and she replied she is well aware that there is a high chance that he won't agree to her proposal. She further stated that everything she has done so far by continuing this job or by coming here today. She knows that she might end up hurting someone, and she understands that all too well, but she is willing to accept punishment for what she has done. Maki mentioned that from his perspective, she's just acting selfish, but she's definitely not a bad person, and that is exactly why relationships can get complicated at times. He replied that he needs to talk it over with his dad, and it has nothing to do with her, and more importantly, he reminded her to make sure she keeps her promise, and asked her to bring him along even if she has to drag him over. He left the cafe and thought that now he just need to put his trust in Miss Minato. He was about to fall when the president held him and told him to watch his step. She told him to be careful as the path there is packed down and frozen over. He apologized, and she mentioned that it looks like he is wearing the uniform. He agreed and stated that he had something he needed to do, so he didn't have the time to go home to change, and this happens to be his most expensive-looking clothes, for he thought it was the obvious choice for him to wear. She laughed, and he noticed that she was also wearing her uniform and asked her about it. She responded that she is the host and school representative, and told Maki that she is stepping down as the president in March, and she would appreciate it if he started calling her by her name. He added that it reminds him that he has long quit being the class representative, yet some of his friends still call him class rep. He called her Tomu, and she was shocked. He asked her what, and she replied that he startled her since he called her by her first name. He apologized and mentioned that he thought it would be confusing since there is Nozomi too. She smiled and agreed, and gave her the staff's badge, and told him to give it to his friend Zaslow. Maki wore a Christmas cap and asked if he got carried away. She asked what was wrong with that, as it was Christmas, and it is a special day where people get to cut loose and have fun. They entered the hall and they saw people were starting to arrive. She told him that she was heading to the broadcast room, and as she went away she told him to have a good Christmas. He saw Nozomu holding a banner and asked him if he was already working. Nozomu replied that he has been assigned the same amount of workload as the student council by that heartless old hag. He told him that she would get mad at him, and Nozomu mentioned that in the end he ended up stuck with his sister on Christmas. Maki asks what the problem was, as spending Christmas with their family is very commonplace, and asks if he has seen Yumi and the others. Nozomu responded that he had not seen them inside yet, and they should be here any minute, and suddenly they heard the crowd chattering. One of Nina's asked if she saw how cute Nina was from earlier, and the other wondered if she came there as a guest model, and she replied that no one said anything about that. Maki realized that they were here. They saw him and realized Maki was there. Maki saw them and thought as expected of a mommy, and looked at Yumi and greeted her. While Yumi told him that the cap looks good, he completed her sentence on her. She was disappointed and told him that his vocab is weak and thanked him while she blushed. Maki blushed and stated that he really meant what he said and knew that it is called an off-shoulder and it looks great on her. She blushed and responded that she got it. Nina told them to get married already, and they heard a voice asking if they had a moment and called for Asanagi. She asked if they have some business with Asanagi and if they knew each other. They approached Yumi and told her that they know it is late to say this, but they are sorry and she might be against meeting them, but they felt they had to apologize to her in person. Yumi asked them if they could give her some time to think about it, and Amani called her and asked what they were doing there. Maki held Yumi's hand and asked if he could talk to her for a moment. He told Amami to wait for them. Maki asked her if those two were the ones she talked about before and she had a falling out with them. He asked if they had come to apologize for what happened last year. She agreed, and Maki thought that Yumi is the one who was wronged and all that, so he thought she had every right to refuse their apology, but he asked if she wanted to make up with them. She nodded and explained that on the graduation day, she let her anger get the better of her and ended up saying something that made it seem like she cut all ties with them. But she has now made precious friends in high school and started things over with you two, and then slowly it all came back to her, and she remembered Sane and Manaka, and those days that she loved so much. She teared up and apologized to Maki, as she knew she was being selfish. She said that she has kept dragging both him and you along and making him worry about her, but now she wants to be friends with them again. Maki smiled and told her to not worry, and he didn't mind and mentioned if they properly apologized to her, then he guessed that means they are not downright nasty people, and besides she was the one who said that it is okay for children to act selfish. She wiped her tears and he asked if he should stay by her side, and she responded that she can talk to them by herself. She decided she would muster up her courage and told him that he was such a coward the other day, and now he is being all cool, and she thanked Maki. They were in the audio and lighting booth, and Nozomu asked Maki if he was on duty, and Maki agreed. Maki thought that if she wants to make up with them, then it's the best she sees it through, and it's not too late after all. He was glad. Neki received a notification from her mom in which she mentioned that she had arrived at the civic hall. Manaka asked Yumi if that boy from earlier was her boyfriend, and she denied. Nina stated that it is a delicate period for her, and Sane stated that studying in a co-ed school does sound fun. Nozoku asked Amami where Maki was, and Amani responded that he was not there. Nozomi said that he wandered off somewhere once he was done with his duty, and he wondered if something was up with him, and Yumi thought of something. Maki's mother was outside and called Maki. Maki apologized for making her come all this way, and she told him it was not a big deal, and asked if that was what he forgot. He agreed, thanked her, and apologized. She was confused about the apology, and a guy came and called Masaki. Maki's father was there, and she saw him and told Maki that she was going home. Maki asked her to wait while his father asked Minato what was the meaning of all that and realized what business she meant. Minato apologized to him and told him that she lied about that. He turned around and told her that they were leaving, and Minato stated that Maki asked her for a favor and requested him to not run away. He realized that is why she left work earlier this evening and asked her what she took her job for. Minato replied she was ready to face the consequences of her actions. She requested Atsuki to listen to what Maki had to say. Maki held his mom's hand and she realized what was going on. Atsuki told Misaki that it has been a while. Misaki agreed and replied that it has been a long time since they have met each other in person. He asked Maki why he did that, and he held both of their hands and they asked if he was unhappy about something. He sat under the tree and requested his dad and mom to make up with each other. He cried and said that they should stop all of this fighting and get back to how they used to be, and he doesn't want to have to choose between them. He mentioned that he would try even harder, whether it is his studies or sports, even though it is not that many. He has made a couple of friends too, and he promised to get better at communicating with other people from here on out. He mentioned that he wants to be with them, and that is what he wants the most. He wiped off his tears and stated that concludes his venting, and he knows he is late to say this, but he was sorry. Yumi came outside and saw Maki and realized this is where he was. He told his dad about them living together and apologized to them and held Yumi's hand and stated that she is Nana he likes right now and she gets along with a loner and cynical guy like me and she is always there for him when he is at his lowest. Maki told Atsuki that he knows he dedicates himself tirelessly to his work and how he cares deeply for him, however he won't let himself be separated from Yumi. He cannot keep moving around with him like he used to and apologized to him. Itsuki realized that Make also has someone like that right now. He understood and advised him to make sure he does not turn out like him. He might not be there for him, but he will always wish for his happiness. He thanked him and told his mom and dad that he has one last favor to ask for. Misaki asked him what it was, and he suggested that they should take a picture together with the three of them just one more time. She asked Itsuki what he thought, and Itsuki replied that this is a rare selfish request from his son, and there is no reason for him to refuse it. Maki asked Yumi if she could take their picture, and she agreed, though Nina is better at this sort of thing. He saw his friends eavesdropping on his conversation, and Amani apologized to him as they didn't mean to listen to his personal matters. Nozomi mentioned that they were just looking for him, and they had no intention of eavesdropping on him. Maki replied it was all good, and he is not mad. They greeted his parents and told them that Maki is always helping them, and they managed to make the cut in the finals all thanks to him and his tutelage. Nina asked if it does not feel like they are way out of place. Yumi replied that she is super good at taking pictures, and they asked her to do it. Nina took the phone and asked them to say cheese. He thanked her, and Nina asked Yumi why she did not take a picture with them next, and while they were at it they should take one with all of them together. They asked Maki if it was okay, and Maki said that he didn't mind and asked if they really wanted to take pictures with them. Nina told Nida that she should take a picture with them since she is there and wondered who would take the picture then. Amani called Minato and asked if she minded taking their picture. Misaki saw Maki smiling and they clicked the picture together.